that no pito cheda do to e kodo do le so ne kodon hinat ani de jegin da haskai sajin khana do kha ako be kik e hokat do ajital ya e kid suja ako ti ya he kodo kepenant ada ni klinike kodo oda kha hotsogi e di kodo dan nit aro hot adeni khan ya shon kha iste ashla ko bla oskilat ne znar ako kareg sikha hadot lal kodo ako hasha e di khan hid shidol anol sko ni hinan shtahlo do hot ayo bach ehet ta to hajo awshta do hawan bahayo na sahid hono ko go na halon khosana ol wasle hatshriya handat khaje kiso ولا باغو تخدل جيش الستا هلين بيجيونا خليت شام بيجيونا ده أشيشون كدوية هدي خده سي وندا إزلون ده خجول نهضت على وانده هز أنجي أرون هي يسا أرون نكرول سوليجي إدي كدو ده أسد أولت إنتو بدنيل أنجي خجود نجد يديل تطلع أكو بلغانا إدو خجوده أكو إدي بدناشة هستويدون ساني دي كدون ده سو خاجي هي دي كدون هي يس أما سان نال أجا هوانجبن يه ده سول أنجي أكو هي ناتشة الله بيدهو ناس بيناتشة بيدهو تزل أكو دي كدون نات هاد آخر أستيجي إن ليد شين هي سو كان هي نال كان هيك هجوب لنده هلا دي هاد هاد سهزلين وهاد آخر هستي إهتو ليش نيجي شو هون يتسوكين هنالك كيد وهاشي هون يتخلون ده الله ران يزادو ده ديت دازلين نيجي مالدي بيت ليله بلغانا بالذات انت خجو عجب شيء دالتين خالشن أيو ده نه نيدو كت أتدهش شو نيجي لاجدو أحزن ده كو تي كواجي هت ليش تو خاشة ديت سين لو ده نات عجب pledge of allegiance أنكوت starting daily I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ako kodoe ya hadi ya so ali ha bin nachige ya hajot sulzina. The khabe ado lgin so ya hadi kwagi. Be ado lgin kodon hinant Mr. Leo Pino nat ani nat le so hu kade kepanant an le kodi et lo chindan khanata e kodabahdo Mr. Pino.
Yade anotko. Shalchene kododa altis whatso zimbihatisi. I'd say yeah, where I'm coming from, give ekut of a bars and okopasti, so there's a behasti getting bazad. Do bayas and no behatsita evenina. Oh, Atlantin Schlinde, 1989 at only California, Los Angeles, the Kinishniso. I did not start a whole project. It's a lot of things. So that any show that they should know, my lovely wife, 6 years ago, it's now still. I shot that is Tio Cottage, no, what you done shot a bansia. Out of Shannon, and that any show that nins what the snow. I've been into Lada Rodeo Arena, 1955 at Window Roddy House at Ice Great and Slow. Ado 1958 at the Marine Corps in Leicester, 10th grade Adon Strada. March 23, 1958 at the 4 years. This is all for Vietnam. You had to enlist more than 4 years. You don't know Albuquerque. After school, one Thursday, go downtown in Leicester. 8 years they need out of school, but only 1 more month at the 10th grade in this structure. I started serving. I complete 8 years, 1966, March 23. I got the any shorty, Dotatishna. whole Brooklyn session go cardi jail and additional oil to Los Angeles there. Asade but 18 needy, Ade Waliata said see, I don't see the F word or S word at Ilden. Don't again hold on that he cheta ilgasa yan kita snow. A pin was what they send Ade things countania. It's a tad of tan distinct. Ade hard and on this became this sad. Journeyman carpenter and slow. Kodo needs us. Patsy Miller, yeah, in 2.5 year bunches. I don't know how high she's a dark. I take Casabogan, Marlene Harrison, your sister, a large bitch, Gloria Miller, your Edo, Alcotabogan. Edo, Edson Miller, your legende in Hadanende. Edo ja, så dat God han sagen in na wat se slot ni geld. Edo se khasen de is a carpenter. Ako te ko ta sade de gimet ni hagi e beta de stilo ko aden sakis. Hatila no is kis lile che his no. De gino aden ni che ni ya quinzen eda ko hollose. Kachi ada di nis aro de gimet hata ti. Tegen Jood again leaning, God the Father. Tegen Jood again leaning, God the Son. Tegen Jood niet tegen in leaning, the Holy Spirit. A had is that you see a latte, no nail up a latte, cotewa. A done horse sago, belash light, I see Leo, again Leo. Seji because in Jago, Ado Cotego Molin Hin Lao, Ashlish, Ado Pihinigolo. Tishin and Hin La Ha, Ado Ade Denni. Cotego says, Tido says, Sana and Hishla. Codoni, it's Ado or Chichi Ainley, Tontail, but single, but Bahonless send and this Angi Lago. Cotego, the Hinos Cheeto, Denni, the Epihol, Nish. I had Nikitikwa, now behind Nini Trakotego Ade, Hatan hit is Chinoke Adenate, our district on the Nancy town. Docho English at the Nikino Tela, I need to be a seat as to go. Digito at Zile Cotego be Shako who needs single quarter of Bishiko to slave it addition. Ado et or Chido Dani, O Josh Case begin the Tratia. Out of the Kurdish the sons she lovely wife, which is unique that all she had, said Susan Behol, Yawat, Edith Hatel, Hanastas, said Salate, said you know, had Salate, said the clan in it, Leon, 88 yards at the Unity, she carried 1989, the snow, cut all a yappy shahazam. I got this shake her, Ina, that a bit her. Ado hat si be khatani tero be nil tero ta te ya edo to ta Allah tilzun be shahada inna ge shah khalane ko to innan khain lo benna se kombe ta huiliado shiten snabe be khat si tko inna hote ginge ke hote te e ba koni sen ko tishen kon Shachin kon ya ke khata tan soteta we don list kuisani Tigit ego e hazo, nikit ligit out or nikit lido. That was lessly con candidate as Leon's twist, Sani Konkisha, Kagi, et edils, et a dot so. Hit ego ea, Naha Hanyado, let's get on a hast, hit only. Hit ego ea, Nigan Taben, Nasago Chanatani, Kling Woko. Nzagoti katpa snegi te wol ago ina na nitsenepe e algo nihinde dan ledo lechet khakat anzate intase khado anzate da hot ero nichin daste e holno o e kote go chana tago kweke klio yat hedon taga e tische e ya kote o khanchi hinson koto khasi ado hedanil don nas hido Zado was Tiodo Oba or Claude or Nilla. A cushion lago a aconantish, ya as needed on our outlaw not this Sichucota, even in our society, So that the Nigan gave a cow, lay how she got aho, so that we eat on the hunt, got the whole loan and get a horse. Garo Jona ended on say so that I don't castle or castle that day. I didn't think to have done outly. That I don't hasin that it can not deal with Charlie. The hotel was at a son, the hotel ever traho, the last lie and his lie, hotel and she not date or Beshakon of son a shane he transla in the hall, arrow, hoyel, arrow, it are hotel, the cow has a tradition. Korketani klundo yo nidi be khan se kes ado ledo ya eko be khan se kes e basi tishtra gada koko tishkweshi she kosen dan linis kusani education and that and lili binido shek hedo titi gimbazabe haditi shite ngi ko tiro be khasigo la lan sagun khana hin san khalatani Tenigin gito tani intaki inte a cash traka hol hour hoyel hour ante ida idoli. God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Akashnanta. Ako di kodo na de kidigido that aje biche hote shishgo. Alsa naje ben hiche hadis sihi kha ila ol yelan bor shi hinzen lata. Ako di aje ben hil kodishn de abata hanosen. That some of the answers to the questions that we're going to pose. De kade ya hun kha histegen hich eta da hadolzil. Kodo hadoljish nicht naj only nicht laj dolle. Khot ya hich eta da hadolzil. Introduction gide lesen de do etskil wins de oh jong hich eta da hasi. Khainil gedo khadon nan lido khado nanna ede isisha. Mr. Leiser?
Oh, yeah, Shikero Shidane, Shay Myron Leiser, Comanche Nishle, Twahan, Bushes Chin, Do, Comanche de Che, Asha de Chanel. It's great to be out here. It's been 7 years probably since I've been here. It's so close, but yet so far. My apologies for that. I'm a busy businessman, and I look to help Navajo become as busy as well in a lot of ways. But thank you for having this presidential forum. I see my colleagues, my cohorts over here, and every one of them is esteemed. And here, I believe their heart is in the right place. So today, I greet you with a good heart.
Yat eho, she yaha Frank Dace Jr. Shebet aninslam. Kehi bedak egot atla no tau ade ya tkinigi shemado shje shel chin shik e no tlenigi yat en het snidole. Hashkat zoy da shje nana na khoide ne da shnal tchini da shche. Shchne shi hidat eho kehi bedak ego yat en hedini dole. Nagoinat ani nes de ishi yaho Aaron da ina nishbike khadanet aj koje azeil nekha Aaron da azeil tselete da stahi ho adeliat for the neshjede khoda hot au na nishbike khada di kha bene na koji na Aaron da sido ada ina tlonshido in way hok ajgo chech el trate Ade ina kaiho. She hochin nilende had lat hook ade shit no not ani neze hochil now. What hook ashi na hadlen hochil trateho. Ish be caught ishit and not George de shit no than I still kitende ho. What au ye quite with eho and not George on the way church el trate snenit si anta kaiho. I don't da Adi quite Yanan Stahadno, Zail, Endo, Honte, Gilkin Snani, what El Ajamanan, Shodon, what our Yanis, and there's a Saint or Lil.
Oh, yeah, she Arvin Trujillo is ya. Sisakadin Shle, but Annie Abash's chain, a sheen that should shadow na Kaidenet, that Shanala. Shagane Bati Liteolia. Fruitland, New Mexico, Adishagan. I've been married 43 years to a wonderful wife, Cynthia Trujillo, and I have 3 grown children. All of them have their degrees, 2 of them have their masters. And again, my wife and I are both Christian, and we've brought our children up in a very stable home environment. And we also challenged our children. You know, we wanted them to reach their potential and really exceed their potential. And each of them have taken on that responsibility and moved forward. For my campaign, I'm looking at 3 basic priorities, 3 areas that I want to touch on. 2 is really looking at really restoring our foundation. Joe, you have to make sure you have a sound foundation. If you build a home and you don't have a foundation, but you build the walls and the roof and get everything in place, but that foundation is flawed, that home will come down. What I'm looking at right now is really reestablishing the working relationship within our council and our executive branch. How do we do that? It becomes important, Iggy, because they're right now focusing on really not having that good relationship. They're not able to really focus on what is important. How do we help change your quality of life? How do we begin to develop a government that is responsive to you? The second is really looking at government employees. Otto, we're looking at how we can establish that aspect. The third piece is looking at economic development. So again, we're looking at how we can really establish ourselves. So again, my name is Arvin Trujillo. Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. Yat e bene she e sanja kinenchle tetna bilni bashchin tetna Jenny da she trabahanta shinale she e lei toda nasha. I am here today with my husband Johnny Johnson, and my children are in the valley going to school and going to work. But first, before I go further, I want to thank all of our officials that are here, the land board, our veterans who are in the room, and to all of our, to Vice President Rochelle Montoya. She's here, she's joined us today. It's good to see her here. And I come from Klagetoh. I grew up in Klagetoh with Shamasana Doshiche. I actually, before I moved there, I lived here in Churchrock with my mom and my dad, Francis Sitna Janiya, and my dad, Douglas Nez. We lived here. And when I was 3 years old, my mom went to go look for the vehicle. She didn't have it, so she walked to Gallup. And somewhere in her path, she came across some men who sexually violated her, 4 men, and they killed her. And as a result of that, that crime went unsolved. But what happened is I ended up at my grandma's house in Klagetoh. She helped to raise me, my grandma, my grandpa, and then from there I went into kinship care. This story is really important because it tells you how much life shapes you. It builds character. It helps to shape your integrity and your honesty, because all of these life experiences make you into a strong person. So when I share this story, it's to remind us to humble ourselves, to be there and to think about the people and the hardships that they go through, no matter what that might be. So when I decided to run for president, people asked me, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" And I decided to do it because I worked in the president's office. I worked as a division director. I was fired. I was fired because I stood up for all of you. Because, and Vice President can adhere, you can ask her, I stood up every time a law was being broken, every time somebody wanted to give a person some money, every time they wanted to give somebody a $60,000 raise, I couldn't do it. So that's why I'm running, to restore dignity for all of us. Ahiaha.
Yate pene. Kei nollnigi da nollskoga nollonigi. Ikha aruka en hada haus agilo. Larry Noble again. The Hutchine, I ghost steamboat. Aro the rate is I had a Hutchine and raid my tordo tego. Are a Yaho ado adit shiki o le ho ye de ya e basis chin dan lenis ade ho ado ade eke ste shal chin bel shal chin e ya e hollon do zanado slash ashge e hollon e nanist e tachi nit ko hoto ya shal chin hollon ado neta Dide ho ben je adet inige ishianol tonigil bazen aro ho ben je ho agi diche jo ishi hans zu da shdo jilche ho dot alo shdo ban benas bansas keso leslo sonshi noya ago agis shinan shish inige inige Apache County Recorder ho do ish shinan snati inige Chesn days I had at St. John's at a county officer आज ये recorder hat नहीं किसी नाम से ये होती ना नेचुरल नाल सोचवान दान देगी तो दाल सोचता इल्ले नहीं कि दान देगी पा आखिर नहीं कि आज इस नाम से को होता ये आज नाम से नाती हो आज के नौसे नहीं कि हो आई उस बार हो नौसन डॉले तो क्या है ना खता हो आगे thank you
Yat say Johnny Russins, yeah, I don't could a Nakani Kai Churchrock, I do say 28 inch, I do Tani Sunday, that's yeah, I do Ashche, that's a Chados, I mean, Slisney Chanel, is Tali Tele, I don't just at now, Tillida, I don't know, yes, a Kade landboard, Kayato, that don't you begin, I don't grazing from a bunch, yeah, all this now. A buses in District 19, I call part of Eastern Agency. Katina at landboard, no. RJ Yao eat those bahans and Danaya, Oshel cookies at all Gaya, those bahans and you know, Ado, Le Sagaho Zandabanal, Dedo, Bahadits Adon, Odo, Inchtra, the Neban Benat, Bahas scene. A corn cannot only this lane so Tania, Alan, and the say, they that you on a house, say old Overkin, okay, then a large data, and you. A corner here, although Eastern Agency, a here couldn't kind of cry, but his the horn cannot on in the house. In this nuclear, the horn has 21 around the house, Tasha, I doubt the never care how you know this here. I would have been Zealand, Cadet, oh, ho, echo. The honor has transit Chonda, but Zealand, the never Zealand or little. No, so about this case, I don't hear, I don't think out the 100 as it. Yeah.
Yat shik edo shidenedo shel trahasin lo. Yat binne ne jonne binne kot augo lo. Kwede kindlet sossen nel holgehege kwede in khani krisli. Ako ba he tanitzen. Ako she kunst enlede bindan hilahadi ludo hani krisli. Ako hat ado a khwedo konsa adilti biyaha o gizla. Ado ahdan shego ado ledo tintligi. Jo ba he hille hot eko. Aro kwed ya ben yeho agido. Het ya keya nlenigi. Ado bakha in altlosh. Se zinigi. Ado keya bi yije hot egido bakha je hot egi. Ado behez ani al khatn. Jo hot augo ya di han zahoshi benna etikito le hoton needs li. Ko hot ya behiltahanil nik ade holgisha ko qadanda da jadolil biga hasja ilata johot avances keso aden hitlil watsli khala eti bahazan go ekheya lenigi edona kin lego adon na altlosh bakhas zinigi do edona kin lego eti jid nikhisot zinet atin hiyinet atin hier outland ati bik ahochini na dort ati behini na ot dort over hat so belgana ahoti khahot atide akoti kwet hot shina hadlen akon le kod de nabike ya hagits den le bejesa ande ade bichraho atin dan khad Ahdid ja kedat de lie, ahdi hot audi da wel jish. Ebeni na go alla toch aan za hoshi at khapa yeltchi o de yat etolit. Jo illon iban za kes. Ako jo she gadit ahin shlon kun za hode shit goljish. Ako ja kot ako dik at banat enige zet a akuij ade nal sos no da hot ashnanes inseno. Hot at de bebenal sos do hot is ado hot ako. Die hot asen ze kesen long. Adoshe na hat long at de kuishin sis kan leho ni hit khahopet ja ich ta wil now hot aye de kwen khani khsle ja pa ket ne sitln so ado und da bit ahne donne enschle khatnes zahne bash shin kilchi ne da shi ado shi da shnal akot ad ja de nenschle ado sensa des ahol Rock Point, Arizona. Adet ja ina shashmado shje hodlo hastwido sani ji az liqat akohot ja akohot de behodlo benal sos kwege dahil sos adon da hot nasl la akhade shi kot ade nihi ya da ho en he kwege konit ega ebik hot ja nana samlinash enigi da hodlo et hat die nova ashla do ye hok a hol jis belina ash en lechil chimbit khodo tsach je betra ade ishil ilte de kuina khayen da shi ade edi jendet at a konsata a hosentado da shidini dole a khot ja ayot a dis sansen hot ega a khot khash ke no leni shalchnet khalt den nana kedelt edo stand ashadelt ye kon ja hot ad ishil khaz an leho del tledo nasla do khot ago ade shaligi in stego ja khoden khani khsli
Yat shikedo shidne nan staholon de shinkon khanoya nat ani lachit an da ado ile yan sida kis ile benet an leila Nihidene nada tsibta hat da hollo da no sonshi kwen khano ya ibe khe shidi tam chi da shijne khashka hat zohn shlon klas chi bash china na khidene da shido to yetlini da shnal le Arizona de atahwilene da hachni de babra geshit hastui ayo don da khastande ye gobso da zenda hollo bandel ako da nekya tahilen da tawliye go na khidene ado shcheda na khibtsi ko hat khali soya da nisha hat khali yaj da no da dojigo dan khil ako kohot edan khil no bikko ade del de ko dishes azido do he Kin Schnigo, the Schne, the Babarakedo, Kaya, at Eheki, Joe, Jehase, Kaya, Akiego, Eza, in Nadoba, was Nizita, da Nesta, the Pepe Gashi, Ha Ishin Sanal, Dogin, the Bini Yeso, the Hot Zengo, Jehasela. Ebeni nago kona heso thanigi di nihikeya hallon hide behallo seteno zeno shi kono ya ekben na koroshetla ashen jonogo ya hatzi di da sin his kesi bin na kono sho nhaba hono sendole da hadi len hosh go chajin chin ni yesgo alkidashi khali belgana kaya betlagada jut kone bekrashi bedajin ho ya hadaji nilo Bobe husband de needa ne chajin in holy aja no Nihida need in hedo da need chajin in no kaya hikita agoye but in case he kodo bansidi case she kita hodil ne yono len go ko dan he nego na so khagi he thank you
Akya na johot ay yang chida da so si do kodo nas ne kha di khagi hajo khagi ya di kepen and ada ne tleni chida da hadil zil di kodo hajo be kiln da hadil ne to da khil da willa do lehn sinden hinan shada hotla khod now ladies also ajon khilna da this J ako are ya he astlad gon hito di no jo na o ta to na ta do hinan sha da hotlo ako ba 1:15 one o'clock in shields ko do lehti ako beyen binani ge ya he di hajol kin de na alche honestly ako di ya he anant hot ako lago na de kit khodlonde ben hitche da di sihlige ha sin khahul kin de alles in kha schlechten det ortskittel go na halon kha di schlich ako ben yage di kwadoni so khage ke apnan tsada nitlini khjo ben hitche da di zil jo khala behez ani ya hidi kwada the na behez ani khana is so gi title 3 is ben del nish be yaden das so subsection 200 or 900 is ben del nish ako aro ya hay kwada be Washington behez ani 25 CFR 166 station ya hay off reservation grazing code off reservation gi is ni be yaro shi ja ako benat ke ya tsanelit aro to di hline los do be Washington aro ya hin hinat ani dan lindigi khadat ist khadat ist anige memorandum of understanding this the cooperative agreement ben nachi ya khut khaz ani ke ya na tloshi dat ni hin khan do yel do nit al khadat ist anige ke benant dan lindigi sibahni liya ako di belagana jo ya administers jo ya ajib like isla bi yajin da hasoge lang on hinan sha de nilzen ako bits anoge ya di kota the bebenal sociology en hiyese grant the del jo en hiba da hatit atne ako husa tani na slash di kwagi ne ya henke tishni koronan de dishkel Washington ba ta edi sabeda na hadit ahbel so aj besla nisho aj issue gilni ahot andel nish ar di ben national khali ke ya ba da hitzo range unit dalya lon hin khatanastla aj elki tahassugo grazing community olya drake at enigate chapter boundaries nachi ya olle in hindet lo kodan in khanil yan hidan nitlenigi ako kwagi be bada hanosndo ar osto ya he di kodan khashil so ke ya khasniligi at and hilo shida hitso allotted lands aro di high fee lands that tribal trust lands da ako di kodon hi yasnel ako di do bakana ta in da trespassing ilo hin hidet miyan khadita ako ya hadi ke ba kach hel yahi adelt eko khoda badel transgo o da del tlengo ida ke be yadot dol yelige aslan hin khananstla be landa itle al khedo nishanin lon hin khananstla ako di kodo sin hin khaslanige hot aben hike hodini ako aro lo sa hollogo nedol che hodat ihego en ki tatni helke ako kwagi bel ada nit ako hot wash and leg ben andahui hin khan hon di tho ba hin enigi at the thinda da get right away hat nindigi hodat yazi versus jumbo itan shi ba hin stido khodon khadet ako di khone ya he nal tlonshi chin desne wildlife lon hidet ye patu ban tede kesto ban ta hasil Lido hot chogi ne hollogo kodo lambor bedan di na son khabela le hote ya hot ari ha chogi hollo ako di dat enigi hakwigo shimbe na kinda dasto ako ben yage ya di kodo aniche khajon hike hoti ni lambor de noshge ni hin khasalaro aniche kodo ya be de noshge ha ishi ba otasitlinge council da snitlinge da nitlinge aniche be da ha kita dot sabe da dit ben dalnish hat nogo hot delnish ako di kwagi ayu atsan ke dalzena holjish lambor hat ni kon lebesh pas ando khojo da joben night ya hay don kha khun zin da khashita isen delnish ako akwagi ya hay be ba da hat no sil Ako do heda bi yashi jada yisa jo farm board do grazing official executive branch bi yasa ja land board ten. Ni here yisa legislative branch do hot ade ni kid. Ni here ajen yashi ja yat do bi no ya hot nish. Ako be anit ya di kwata capenant adan it lindo the bebenant abit ninigi ya bez anigi bebenant adan linigi 25 CFR 167 in that nish. Ado hakwigo she bebenant sosta yocha new lands 25 CFR 700 she part Q. You got to make sure you add the part Q. McCracken Mesa on the 161, yeah, and then Navajo partitioned land. So I call that's Nihe 166 Behahal Jigi, Ado it's at the Hasoge, Ajigain Dalnish. I call Nenegate, Diquagi, you say, at the Nenegate, Washington Bedel Jish. I've been bizarre because it should need Nihin Kikea, Nihin Hasla. Be bad no sin. Ko deep in the Hanin Lanigi ben Nachi, hot on Dale Nistabit, no bail, Kate Nikai. A co Nahanan Age not Annie than Linidon Hiki that de Tita. Deep Lagana Bizat grant yolia, Koje issue yolia, bail aunt and Nigi bad no sin. A co Quaggy yo. Tazan Ashon Zadi Kana Anko die Niche Hotel, I don't know Hanna Ka Ade Hanna Nika. Ako akwagi ko di ko do ya ha shin jinon khal keten del ni sho di shiln senden that o his kalgo na halen bin nanigate an ko checkerboard ni hit ni le ko je di ko do hot an khada han was sende be nache holzel do ya ba hit era be be nan tkin di ko do bin nai ke ben an ada dan ne klini huna sit khani kwitche ben del nish بديني ليش بنا حجو خدودات نكيلشان دادي لقيتو خليت كيش بحاز نجي بندنديل كدوليل أكو أرو هال تصوغو بتخص أنا جيت بخاديت زتوليل نته دي يسن كندا أصله ده أو كيان هذا هدست أكو دن نديل كا شاشي بعد هانسن مارشال تريلوجي ديلنا تخاو بين ده هست Bilagana banatlo yanas kai. So the United States of America aton de khaleko khada testago ben hiyan ben kinda aslo da kaya. Khasha be de ditsin in the bandanitha. Hanosla have you heard of the Mabo case? MABO case? Oh. In let go hananda Australia. Ekhot baasha natleho bagadate edike hagi bandate Aja what they see so big. Ako edit lamba yadalt title 10 year. Ako that aja bit that dates it. Shagi say yadalt kid ne do kansana aron hit ka lord and the anko. Ako nasi ka edikat nan kidish kidige hey abenos anigit hey kodo be khada dot seto aro hey pe ba ta no pe ta no sin ki time ba da khoshya. Benan kide kidid yisibiniya. We have verbal questions, we have multiple choice questions, and then we have true or false. Ako di kwagi al najan nanki dish kilige Mr. Chin of the dish kit kwagi. Di kwada bilagana shins and order you want in Navajo. I'll say it in English first. Di kwada ojaka hotzo ke saniligi. Joy Yahidi Nahasogit, Edo, Yahat Satanigi, Are Yotore Bekea, Are Yahidi Nabe Hobik Beranch, Tenigi, Belin Dale, Aro Shine, Lozbekea, Aro Ada, Bihigi, private land, Tenigi, Eti Hut Hasanel. Not Ani Sandligo, Eshahit Ago, Eti Quaki, Alkea Hasaneli, Alta Hasogi. Benaan nishigi bendil nishigi di koto na nishkadnol chal yolge aro that di kota Washington nishigi Washington do aro in kinkinat in Washington aro ya hedi yot ko hode that bendan nish eshe khit abel dil nish Joki altkis the libet da anishigi kwagi yonan tlahle.
What's the time limit? Thank you. Echeha kodona idin kidigi. Nihi kayahdi koje yo toja kahozogi. Nin leide betlagin linde nat aban sinze kiso ba hozinzingot edo nil. Judi kweda 1912 ya da New Mexico State ilia, Arizona do State ilia, New Mexico Territory o liego behadet and ade hotishgo 1923 neznado ana hebelate inta United States citizen da so lean hitot need. So the land became a territory. It was the original indigenous land, Ado territory, New Mexico, Ado state, Arizona, New Mexico. Became the inta, the inta, United States Senate citizenship, but it. Nas na hotish 1948 da inta voting rights nhanadit. Akodi Pablo Kisanisha Vietnam World War II veteran de natsa adende obeba hot idala New Mexico yen go voting rights nhadet anstest ego kayanta has zogin lede ni. They divided up all the land. We had no voting right. We had no citizenship. We were considered non-landowner. Even in the railroad, Conti Chana Logi, Artish checkerboard, Kayako, Bebeso that Soha, de con Aspansi dol, if it's Ado Ehot Alenda, Gedo, da no, quite a never ado than he didn't need. Quite indinda, the Baran Adon the Dinida. Ebits Ado Edil allotment and Dasodo ranchers, the Bilgana, the Bebeso, so it taught this knee. Eben need or did. Jubilgana, oh, you are could don't hikiti, Kita could only wash your todi daha. Kaya ye had it edon das zogido yahon zenda. That all quite a bit cheap that the Eben nice this kitten so the schne hate the nebelson that deal nisco bidet on the ni go ni hito not ani ni clinic on his bear was zeno ochatle on a hodges en a halen. Digo ben glada has do tili kota hot in lede but said big echo 80 street hot abe has ani behatatit Dibe has ani hadatit is a don ho sada donan hinilta kodihini nana kodadot seha ado chin listadol dilata kota nahaba hono sendole dabedit not don nil to tata will shego do on his at the hot shot don nilta besper hozenla ye en nila ya kon zenlan hilsnigo yinache enan hilsnago bikehenit Yat eho hiln da dil nisgot di hot aben nasba hon sene na tin tragon e beswa sa ane tratasata di nach hasine la de snal keya ba hunst id ebik kodobik hendest ego desne a chehe
Hey, Mr. Justin Jones, Banahal Jesus. I'm going to say it in English and then do it in Navajo. Your question is going to be, allotments carry split, heavily fractionated ownership and are probated Reform Act, not Navajo law. Many Eastern allottees depend on oil and gas royalties as primary income. How do you weigh individuals' allottees' economic interests against the Navajo Nation's collective land and cultural priorities? Nahasogi Kea, Yahacho Hala, and Nego, Nedandi Taho, Yahidi got it, I Bahaljo, probate your Yeba Haljo. Yahai Washington has Anigi Ajitri, the never what became has Ani Trios either, co 80 bit Nachige, Yahai Hashita, Yahai Katlajento, Zalibits out of base, Inigi, 80 Kodon, Hin Washington, Nigi, Hashit Abel, Hana, Nilo Evans, and Kisigit, Bedini.
When I did kiddigi allotments, a take is a tahagi bedone. A bahazan go a take is a tahagi dohno, not sosen daja. A coho ya nihitras ni ita late the 1930s and on hitchodalia. A coho baby cash chiniki ya to hate a petet ita. Ne nje bakagi queta hilt sosigi petet it. What a go base art a hegi show. Diga did never kaya bakai dinal sos that they jahagi what a home site lease. It or lease it over kai ho one could the year. Bakai igi sit achadit out and nahij dos netoha nahidon neto be hodlonigi doha nahidon neto nahij dos nihige it obe his aunt out ago. That's all sosogo. A konde koje a take is a dahajigo e laho ananat e beha hot e. You have title to the land, yitna. A kodik a belagana, lashadik at hot zogi, the outside of the Navajo Nation, a state, you got a heda or shida kaya nahasnio e a ko e nal sosha de dos sos shijit bakat or lit. Adon da e be hodlonigi do nahedishne, bakai hodlonigi do. I don't need anybody's permission to do that. Nana khayda ya nahitishne no idota khodota hot ado lizio do hot akwe his anigi di bes art a kodi kwet the neduk that it hinta a kodik a di allotment sigi in leden da hitist ana the dish. I call else that is chinigi fractionalized dalia. I call late 1930 that it changed launch like Bishop Bakalian adults that is chini honasok at 234 go that's the well jishla allotment so that they're fractionalized. I call his jaw survey kota hon so go that's the nebijit da baka. I call later probate leho nan taile. A kodika behezani a no go Title 8 or a Navajo Nation probate law. E behezani gi aja Title 8 igi biyado go allotment say we don't have jurisdiction. A Navajo Nation kone a konde nle kote nana Navajo Nation bigit the nana zohogi anad the courts. Title 7 the courts have jurisdiction over trust lands and all other federal lands that are on the Navajo Nation. So you have a conflict in laws right here. I call eben now had a allotment been the yakwe probate it should leho ade sha algo she allotment probate shlis ni hogo hakko shinla ana yahates sosendins de yoshkal I have no jurisdiction that don't need just satahagi crown point or pueblo pentado what I call we don't have jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction on the Navajo Nation. Washington that the name the ekhodet ashetet it the note on the behizani. You need to come together. Ako nlate nan tlaile, nlate hol jishite, hot ago, hot ako kuj lease al ende nan tlago, yossen, hot adni ilyehegi, or youths I ako not let you based on that, but every one of those 234 allottees have to be part of the lease. Hot an echo 25 cents or $1 that they betra ni hopand ilta. It's a simple sitting down with the federal government and changing the Navajo law and changing the federal law. You have to come together to fix it. It needs to be fixed.
Mr. Abiso, can you be my timer? Which Dandi Kishnadi Stikla Kohodna, to that is and on his shadow Anjet Lahoyat at Agent Lahoko, Eben Nachay. Mr. Russell, the current system descends from the Taylor Grazing Act, the livestock reduction to the 1930s, and the BIA grazing districts imposed in 1937 and later adopted by the nation. How does that history inform you? How does that history inform how you would lead on land and grazing today? The current permitting system descends from the Taylor Grazing Act, the livestock reduction of the 1930s, and the BIA grazing districts imposed in 1937, and later adopted by the nation. How does that history inform how you would lead on land and grazing today?
The Grazing Act, occurred on federal grazing permit. Di bayetki the hashitado halitado Shaban this case though the nehi though the BIA ado they shouldn't be in control of the grazing area. Up ankin the national up grazing permit had a nitlo do up issued this only but on the grazing area. I could lay BIA you Nikado in Davisnaya. I call Halit out Edo Halit Arbendonish. I call Abin Anken Kikado had a needle shin John this grazing permit. Although Shane this as long as I go with the better law, as long as you can afford it, I could buy business although I could bungee snail. I could we could a day reduction down here. I could aid to ya data. I could all the grazing Yahoyanaso Yahonis. Junley Treaty of 1868 died grazing permit had Nahas at all the back. Cadeo not argue not kiss. I could I shouldn't hit Hashita okay the delegate Tobanda Hekio shout I hit on Hahadocha. I could the federal act, I think we should let the BIA not be authorized to give out grazing permit. Let the officials, the Navajo people, give out the grazing permit. Although not too much red tape, don't either, but all those simple procedures. Not long. Share what about this case? Although yeah.
Mr. Noble, your question is, in the Eastern Off-Reservation Agency, grazing on interallotted and trust land is administered by the BIA under 25 CFR Part 166, while the district land boards under the Off-Reservation Grazing Code, Title III Navajo Nation Code, grant grazing permits and create or modify range units in grazing communities. Overgrazing and range degradation are chronic. What can a president do about grazing reform, and what is outside your authority? What can a president do about the grazing reform, and what is outside your authority as president? Kushina, ti kudat odaha so jo e yahi di bebanal sosil sogi Washington e sebas labake yahagi e bez ani e ad hot ane ni then hike ben da ni delegate nabada hadit ar e yahi katnan khari range ni yolge e so aj bada hadit to bente qas ako e di ben nachigi e yahi kodo do hojoba haya do hojobin de la shibna ke ayis in de ya Gilin da dalla do da is ara kotna koti not honestly ishe khait up in deal nishti kwagin da hast egi behez honestly as ar e kha ishe yise naslangi o da kha isto naslara e job
Koshin Georgia, Nick Etche, Chinahuin, Ado, and the Pelagana Cacheto, did the Bebinal sauce at Nenigi, Benahat Ado, Bebe has Ani than Lenigi. Jo even ya Department of Agriculture, Hollow, Dick at Ben and Nishigi, Dist a co, Ni, I say Antasi, Kazot Ebiga. Dik at het eigen het o ja het o. Ik het in snel door de Bevan en dat je big Navajo niet ja. Grazing committee members dan Lenigi, ouder coach land board but dan grazing committee members dan Lenigi, land board hananat osa asliuna but nil. Kojibia na shot na but ni kojin jino na da hata kojigo na but ni a copy has ani dots da ya bike da a co AD kin the oversight ki has jo banit ben nachet anil skopenel nisho the bebenant apple benel land board benel nisho di be has ani ki jino ke has donas anal ya bohanetza a co ben da dil nish we need to utilize the expertise there. ADB has anitan lengitan te hajo and dol nil hajon dadok also a baby the napes benel nisto lesto it the nape ben deal nistasi. Joke a day what at oyo put nape ben an nishna lot on hitch kunana tle kunana tle dibe has ani kon hit lin hit no open dan hit jins. Ni hitchiko ye ni hishe hait ni hitchiko ye en hin hi kaya hollo ni ken hit a behollo ni hit li hollo but not a kaya ge she hait oba atil nil hait oba na huit hait o ben na huit adolis even not a deep has on it and lingi ntatik asajo kat dan hi ni ken it hait and nani lingi in it a hebelt hait all ken not nelgo o e bonet jasnan da ich
Recent Eastern Agency permit renewals and fee changes plus Menifee formation protective actions moved through the council and BI processes. How would your administration handle the friction between range regulation, home site lease development, and the families who live on that land?
Thank you for that question. When I was looking all of this over and going back a number of years, I first met Anthony, and he was telling me, Debbie, you need to come listen to what's going on here. You need to come to our meetings. You need to be a part of this. And this was about 3 years ago. And I listened. And then as time went on, I listened even more closely. And I think of all the questions we're asked, we have to come back right here to the center of the land board. What I recognize is that there's division in the land board. Serious division. It's like a big white elephant right here. We're not talking about it. There's one group over here that believes one thing, over here another believes another thing. Everybody wants authority. Everybody wants to be in charge. Nihimana Hassan is expecting this to do right by her. Our animals, the horses, all of the animals are expecting to be cared for. And now what we're doing is we're dealing with climate change. We are in a serious mega drought. So when we look at fees, we have to make sure everybody is at the table. The grazing permittees, the land board, both sides or all sides of the committee. Because it sounds like we're all broken up into different pieces, and we cannot come up with a good sound plan for our nation. And so the BIA, all of these federal partners, they're waiting for us to make up our mind. And I've been in those situations before where you go into a meeting and everybody has a different plan and they don't know what to do. We can be very decisive when it comes to fees, when it comes to grazing permits, how we pass them down. But all of these federal partners, they want us to get in order first. Am I right? I see your head nodding. Our leaders, no matter where they sit, if it's on the council floor, if it's in the president's office, if it's Eastern Agency, if it's the land board, if it's we have to be on the same page. We can't be going over here, going over there. It's kind of like herding cats. They go in different directions. But our sheep, we can bring them around like this and we can take care of them. We get a little bit of help and we do that. And that's where my struggle is. I'm like, who's talking? What is their position? And then sometimes I ask myself, what is the hidden agenda? Who's in charge of this? How do they benefit from it? Those are my questions that I have. So when we look at these processes, these fees, this is where we have to start first. We have to start internally. We have to all sit down and talk to each other. I'm struggling with it because I hear community members talk about that. They talk about their windmills. The other day we got a report from the president's office, 1,000 windmills repaired. Then we don't even have 1,000 windmills. We have 920 windmills. Thank you. We don't have 1,000 windmills. You cannot exaggerate to these Navajo people out here. These people are smart. Don't try to exaggerate and make up stories. They might humble themselves and let you talk all you want, but they know better. And so in here, in our home, in our Eastern Land Board and all of the Eastern Agency, we need to be honest with where our plan is going, but it starts with us. Yesterday, somebody told me, Debbie, I don't want to listen to the politician in you. I want to listen to my heart. Thank you so much.
Mr. Trujillo, ni hikuda agi ya he jo kepen zada ni dlenige en spaza ni gita. Di kwagi ni hin khasla ya kodot a the bebenal so sigi khada hat zogi do khada bada hadits ahagi do ke ya chuyos any range unit en he ni khasla. Le host dojo ayis ha zogi grazing official deslinigi aid or recommend deslinia to the BIA are ajbigin dadnish. Ako di hot in do di kwagi jo agna di kidigi di kwagi sahalleto khit arabic yat tiko ni hike apnant ada ni linigi e di kwata ben di jako au da ben khit ako a di kwata khit arabe hez ani do yid nel nago di kwagi e she khit aben dil nish khalid an ki kha dil wal. So unlike on an on-reservation district grazing committee, which only recommends permits to the BIA, the Eastern Navajo Land Board under the Off-Reservation Grazing Code grants grazing permits, creates or modifies range units and grazing communities. How would you work with the land boards given the real authority, and how would you respond when a land board's action conflicts with nation or federal policy?
Joe, yeah, just wanted to make sure I understood the question. I thought I did, and I did. But looking at the Eastern Land Board, again, I used to be the division director for natural resources for 11 years. I worked with the Eastern Land Board. We were able to make recommendations on the MOU, make some changes there. I was able to open up service line agreements to allow us to cross state lines with the land board when we worked together on that. Looking at the authority of the land board, I think it really becomes important that we begin to work together and that the land board begin to take that leadership aspect, looking at land development. Joke today, we talk about the conflict, yeah. We talk about home site leases, grazing sites. Many of your chapters are looking at economic development. How can we get started? How can we participate? I think we need to begin to, much like Debbie indicated, we need to get together and have some really hard discussions. And we've got to really find common ground. Yes, we are going to argue, but find that common ground on where we can start. How do we start looking at grazing? Do we come together with our ranchers to develop co-ops and designate areas for grazing, designate areas for housing, designate areas for economic development within your chapters, and allow those to happen so we don't have to wait forever for the development in those particular areas? How do we look at range management? Today we are in a drought. How do we manage that range? How can our ranchers work collectively, work together to address those issues? That's what I think we need to begin to move forward. We are in a new day. It is no longer 1920. We're in 2026. And so how do we begin to really look at working together, providing that authority, and educating each other on what the issues are? I recognize what the gentleman here said. I worked with District Grazing Committee people. Coming over to Eastern, like I said, I helped with the MOU back in the 2000 era. Again, I understand the dilemma. My family's from Chaco Canyon on my dad's side. And so again, I understand those aspects. So again, we're looking at how do we really start looking at decisions, and how do we start moving forward so that you, as individuals, whether you have a grazing permit or not, or home site permit or not, can participate in developing your area, in finding a job, building a home, bringing economic development in, having entrepreneurs come in, having businesses open. That's what you're looking for. And so that's how we need to begin to, but it starts from us sitting down and having those hard discussions and working through those discussions. Kat.
Mr. Daish, the 2023 federal order withdrew roughly 336,000 acres of public land within about 10 miles of Chaco Cultural Natural Historic Park from new oil and gas leasing for 20 years. The nation sued over a withdrawal on behalf of the lottees, but historically has supported a 5-mile buffer zone rather than none. While the current federal administration has moved to revoke the buffer entirely. The Pueblos and some Navajo families support keeping the 10-mile protection. Where do you stand, and how do you hold together a Lati income, cultural preservation, and relations with the Pueblos and the federal trust duties?
Dean was others, Horoba the Hoshne, 161, Aro 162, 166. A quote Sasson, the Ligi Yahati, the Navajo Washington, Aron, the Nogoikinal, Godan, Agi, Code of Federal Regulations, it's not case in the 25 CFR 162, what I case in it. Because by yet Kigidi, Chaco Canyon, but now has Anigi, 8 on the raised Crown Point, Aj 8 at Abic Estiolia. Nihe Yahai acquaid or Dadadina. She could all never none as a Leo H. Edishli. Edishli out a Yah 80 be has Anigi benches. Code of Federal Regulations will Yegi 8 and never Canal Godan, Washington, not so sons and the Ligi A Yahaya Yadalki. A Koshaben Shishnish Aje, a Yaha 8 and Ada Canal Godan, a Yaha a contracting officers warrant shade saws. Ebik eho yahai aha the shidi sladin keya hot zabakai keya tot ishina bayat higi kinahal gudegi whatever has anita nehegi ebi test idon dok ansobiga akwa ishananish ishla akwa yaha ehanal sozo. Aron the begin this on here Aron I saw Tanegi Aron the way cramp point in now care any don tanigi jo ebik eho etraidon ebik eho ya e codon hit that on nini pitatizo jo hot out eight eho behaz oh this change the whole just show it 161 162 that it no I touch it edo and the ya e beha hotet elba yelti to eight eda Sahot out deal neso biga hot elhopin nishigi benina a quagi betatil nishkatija a quayan hada sion aron the epetatil nishoko it habits at hadedi net aron hitanit nigit ash edatil neso beyan nadatit ash amendment edatil nish johot out ya ebi in a hastiot elhosnant no senigeo abehos zaniego elho be hodat ade yen his dibik eho not eron his no a kun hate over kenit house hide and hate had the ditze johot aye bansis case sheho edo tada de nation hit abe hosen go yai koje hot egypt bech edika johot aye banse de case under the Danish administration yai edi kodo na so san Kinahal goodness and Neligi, Ebits Abi that it is. Halit out a Yahat only his and the gens and the Johota Eba Yatiko. Arokodo Baha or Z, a Yahati Satodon, Horsnita, and near Sabbath, it is a Tahaki in the Hinde, Don Horsnita, Cote, Appens and it our nazo. Beso hayin netlido appens and it our nazo. Aron the Eya Ekodo at Sanda Zogito, Edot appens and it our days. Are it on Histahadne, what our Eyan Hash and Ade Yadan Hisne, Cadedo less, so what I want, see case and Keho, Aro hot other by El Tiego, Satoni Hikao, Geo, Histahoton, Joko Habit and D, Katos at that day. At the Snenigate out, I was a contracting officer for the United States government. I cannot grade it. I has ante a coin a yaha not a yaha legaya yot albedahidi chido lan hinach ebi has igi bahonits a baby kitchen not is nishot a yaha a gan kabayat tio honza household jishiko ni kao geo jokon a yaha a arot how jot and never beshan did our eben honey hanahot di could our ye yaha baby kahon even days nisho. Here are all that on any big that is neat, Johot Aya hyper yeltio, when the whole Jessico. It are ya could over nasty or little here.
Mr. Leiser, in regards to development, land issues, and other development issues, the Eastern Agency sits in New Mexico. You have to work with the state, McKinley, Cibola, San Juan, Bernalillo, Sandoval, and Socorro counties. BLM, neighboring tribes and pueblos, including private landowners. On top of that, with the BIA. Describe how we would run these relationships and give a concrete example of leverage the Navajo Nation holds.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah, well, I believe everything is by relationship. I mean, obviously, these guys are well and astute in their understanding of 25 CFR. What with the Department of Interior through BIA has oversight over all tribal nations. And I know this has been a hardship for the Eastern Agency land board members and the ranches and the allottees. And so it's a smorgasbord of just, as I think Debbie said that, there's the vision and how do you lead many, many thoughts, many desires, many initiatives, many priorities, and they're also different. I believe that through relationship that I've already been working on this. Some success I've had in when I was vice president, working with Remote Well Solution. We've brought water to, I believe, 9 ranchers just south of Chaco Canyon. Very well studied in the area. These water lines are run by solar power, and they've repaired already established windmills, broken down windmills. It's so hard to repair windmills because a lot of those are outdated. They were made in China. You can't find parts for them now. There is an opportunity to 3D print these parts. And so we have success already in Eastern Agency. If I become the next president, I would love to use relationships. Not only with, right now we're working on an initiative with Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham to help with the dual taxation. I believe she wants to do legacy and leave legacy laws in place, help our Navajo people, but even the Pueblos, in the fact that this dual taxation, if she does an executive order to relieve, just like she did while working with the Pueblos, they don't have this dual taxation issue. By the proper MOAs and the MOUs, they can overcome the obstacles. And so I want to work with Michelle Lujan Grisham. She's a lame duck governor right now. I believe she wants to do a legacy initiative before she leaves office. And so one of the workarounds in what we're all talking about here is using the current governor that's there. I have a great relationship with Governor Hull. If he gets elected, we can also continue this work, utilizing and bringing change. Because right now we haven't, for 50 years, we've not changed what you guys are all working on. The workarounds that we have proposed, when there's division, I learned long ago, when you try to convince somebody against their will, it's like you're just speaking to a wall. They're not going to change your mind. And so he convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Nothing I can say is going to change your mind. And so by that distinction, I've taken this to more of a spiritual level, citing 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face, God says, I'll turn from their wicked ways. He says, then I will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sin. And he doesn't say, I will heal them. He says, I will heal the land. I believe when we're in spiritual unity with not only one another, but with our Creator, that he brings blessing, he brings grace, he brings favor to the land. And with that, we could all come together and work together. And so this isn't just a government issue. I believe it's a spiritual issue. It's a people issue. And when we become united and bonded together, just like commands us to, like S says we should in our communities, then I believe we could work to come into an agreement. But until then, we're always going to have divide. We're always going to have these problems. And so by relationship, not only with our Creator, but with our government officials as well, we can turn the tide. And we have.
We'll ask the question of him and have him introduce himself in a moment. Di kwada ni kwada ba yadel tiege a yisin khanantla. Aro hajonda hinitkin as far as landlords. Ayonantla benat la yidanesten. An lede de hot a ta os ebedet nogo. Aniri hanana taho di hot di be has an in din hin khasalandela. Jo enda hinitkin. Ako be dakil so ako niligo the Eastern Agency Joint Land Board anita 20 members. We passed a resolution majority to do a PL 93-638 self-determination. Anhik that the grazing permits. Ako anhida biyilgedo le. Ako we told the Navajo Nation, the Navajo Rangeland Improvement Act, Department of Agriculture, we'll support it, but just keep it away from us. This is District 16. So these are our range units. All the different colors distinguish different land status. And that's not all of them. But nanige Washington and hilogo holjish hits on in Kea. Abin zanid achadagi zoko holjish. So we've tackled that. Bayada at get trespass. Nindagi, we're making headway. Nidago yahe, we passed a resolution. We're probably the first one anywhere. Land improvement, fencing. These are how we're going to do it. That it need. Superintendent, so now we will submit that for review. A lot of these things, of the members here, the candidates here, please raise your hand if you would support the Eastern Agency Joint Land Board or the Eastern Agency Land Board in seeking a 638 grazing permit. Raise your hand if you support that. Right. As you know, the BIA is shrinking. So now that we have our former members saying, you guys should take over a lot of land. So basically the LTRO, Land Titles Records Office and everything allotment-wise. So Otto will have our late arrival introduce himself.
Okay. I put in Churchrock Chapter House on my GPS, wound up way out there in the middle of nowhere. I don't know why it's like that. And even when I came in here too, we kept missing the signs. So anyway, we wound up out there, so at least I made it. Okay, long. She down begin she built in slight way glini was she nakadent the she to the channel just now that he there then I saw although herfno the although bestray the shike ada. So that's my introduction. That's all. Okay, long.
I can't you dates last week na she district 16 la setli aro she toy space what they done she get that nil garage they little and had a car but so he's my youngest son and he didn't know where Navajo chapter was she able she cut all what no so she found that not able so that nil garage on the so it happens to the best of us. So I could that and I could take with all I could air a little or killing an that this kid. I call all killing I sit or yash wood. And so I'll get killing the wheel net or late Sunday. I'd like to see if we can change things up, but I think we may have to move on to what we were doing. You guys want to do multiple choice questions? We'll start with you. In the Eastern Navajo Agency Off-Reservation Checkerboard, which local body grants grazing permits, administers range units, counterpart to, but with more authority than the District Grazing Committee used on reservation? So your choices are, I'll just give it to you. The Central Grazing Committee, the Eastern Navajo Land Board, the Navajo Partition Land District Grazing Committee, or the Farm Board?
Let me ask.
You're going to see my question, your answer.
I'm just going to read
Oh, you want a Navajo or English? All right. In the Eastern Navajo, good chance, good try, by the way. In the Eastern Navajo Agency's Off-Reservation Checkerboard, which local body grants grazing permits and administers range units? Counterpart to, but with more authority than the District Grazing Committee used on reservation. So your choices are Central Grazing Committee, Eastern Navajo Land Board, Navajo Partition Land District Grazing Committee, or Farm Board. Talk about Eastern.
I think the land board could have, but then there's entities over the land board. But I'm very familiar with our area there, and checkerboard area there. I am a grazing permittee there, also allotment land. And I believe that area there, we need to be more informed by our land boards because of the fact that we really don't know a lot of these encroachments by a lot of these oil companies are coming in, and we don't really know. They just come in, start putting up signs, and we don't know what it's for, and I think that it's an encroachment upon our properties. So I would think that I would give land boards, because they're more connected to the people, that type of authority. That's what I really believe. Yeah.
Well, you're right. So just say A, B, C, or D. But I want to ask you the mic. But Mr. Chi, under the off-reservation grazing code, what authority do Eastern Agency district land boards have that on district grazing committees do not? Your first answer is A, they only advise the BIA on stocking rates. B, they grant grazing permits and create or modify range units in grazing communities. C, they collect federal grazing fees on public lands. D, they probate deceased permittees' allotments.
It reminded me of my boarding school days. When I went into Navajo or boarding school, I had no idea of what language, Navajo English language was. Then you move it to multiple choice or multiple this in English, I'm totally lost. So my question, the neck etchiko satin si case, the night the kidigi, Bilgana catches that a satina not quackita yisina liz. And so Bansas case, are they Washington, but has on it, the CFR do Liehekita, Kot Anad Nisto Ben Dasnish no, quoted at Hanahan, the Jota Yisibedel Ton, a cot a night the kitten sort, de Behades Zigidi, Kedigi, Nihe, the Nano Sini, and Nibahasi, at Washington had later before the creation of Navajo government. Ade Kaya Sonhitsa Alcadis Zohoki Ben Nachiko, local land board, the quack at Navajo land board of Neniki, according to your sovereign status, Kodon Shetla Asha Hatzi, the allotment Leniki en Hippen, Hodni, BLM Bisnas Nishko. Kojun Navajo Nation halon de beket aje bisendashnish ebeni nago kot asa aniki not ani jilon shin kote de na yaj tachin nehtole aye ita be the nos is aye ita ban sokis ebeni nago nihe oholnin hasalla nihe kodo tsaga hot zando not ani ni tlinigi on he ke aye khako ben khada hoiliado jo hot an sahakis izashi the nebe oholni pait anad betsacho chidole ko ebena nihe kode qabayast kigi ado apelon hichada hasho kegi ayo beke khuiko bansas kesti hot out ehto non benachadon hize hot zelda do lehi eben yet what I had is so the question is that we know you go back to your grazing committee, your board as a land board should have the ultimate sovereign issue. This is a sovereign issue. It comes from dealing with government to government relationship. That should be the way it is. But now, as a nation, we're acting like one of the states. We go to or the DC and beg for money. That shouldn't be. We're a sovereign nation. We're not one of your 50 states in America. This is our sovereign right to deal with our land. Thank you.
The Shinigate, I'm going to put it on the board. Just say A, B, C, or D, okay? Elan, just follow the program down English, huh? So what's your answer? So under the off-reservation grazing code, what authority do Eastern Agency district land boards have that on-reservation grazing districts committee do not? They only advise the BIA on stocking rates. They grant grazing permits and create or modify range units in grazing communities. They collect federal grazing fees on public lands. They probate deceased permittees' allotments. B. Oh, you have the right answer. Oh, Mr. All right. Fort Wingate, Achan. Mr. Jones, Nanta. Most land of the BIA Eastern Navajo AG is A, tribal trust land held for the Navajo Nation, B, individual Indian allotments, individual trust land, including surface and subsurface rights, C, Navajo partition land, or D, Navajo Nation fee land.
I would say the majority of the Eastern Navajo agency is comprised of 8 Navajo trust lands held in the Navajo Nation. That's the reason why they call it major trust and minor trust. So the minor trust is usually classified as your fee lands, your state lands, BLM lands.
Yeah. You know, it shows B because the allotment area losses most Eastern land is individual allotment land, individual trusts, each parcel including surface and subsurface right, distinct from tribal trust land. But the Kobel,
One of the distinct part of this answer would be this question asked earlier, and that is the legal issue before the federal government and the federal courts right now. Dean Claggett, a lot was a fake, was a tahaki, internet that they jump, and they said, yeah, they have those particular allotments that are there.
I'm sorry. No, actually just a multiple choice. Multiple choice, A, B, C, or D. 4 minutes doesn't count. Sorry about that. You're Mr. Yeah, so apologize about that. I need to be a little bit more specific with all of you, the lawyers. Oh, well, I was trying to relay the Microsoft Word with your staff here, but next question, Mr. Russell. For individual allotments in the Eastern Agency, which federal entities respect as surface land manager and mineral royalty manager? BIA, the Navajo Nation, BLM, the Federal Indian Minerals Office, BIA, the Office Special Trustee, the Eastern Navajo Land Board, and the BIA. For individual allotments in the Eastern Agency, which federal entities respectfully act as surface land manager and mineral royalty manager? BIA, the Navajo Nation, BLM, and the Federal Indian Minerals Office, FIMO, BIA, the Office of Special Trustee, the Eastern Navajo Land Board, and the BIA. All right, good. Mr. Noble, under the off-reservation grazing regulation, a grazing permit is issued in the name of A, a chapter or grazing community, B, one individual, C, a family land use group, D, the Eastern Navajo Land Board. So you choose C. B, permits are issued in the name of one individual. And here you see it on there, let's try to keep it to one name instead of multiple. Next, in the Eastern Navajo Agency, a grazing permit or authorization may be issued by which entity depending on the land type. BIA only, the Navajo Nation through the Land Board, the BIA or the BLM only, the county in which the land sits. C. B. So, Mr. Trujillo, Beyond grazing permits, the district land boards and the Eastern AC are empowered under the off-reservation grazing code to set federal grazing regulation fees on BLM public lands, create and modify range units in grazing communities, probate allotments under the American Indian Probate Reform Act, approving home site leases without environmental review. Set federal grazing fee on BLM public lands. B. So we think we always know this. It always throws a curveball, huh? Mr. Dayesh, in the checkerboard, a home site lease requires written consent from the valid grazing permittees within what distance as verified by the land board. Quarter mile, half a mile, 1 mile, no consent is required on off-reservation grazing areas. D? D, B. Oh, you said B. B is in boy. True politician there, huh? Which set of BLM grazing allotments lie within the Eastern Navajo Agency livestock grazing area? Kayab, House Rock, Kayab, House Rock, Para, Kaibab, House Rock, Pyra, Councilor, Juarez, Kimbitgo, Largo, District 6, Big Mountain, Coal Mine Mesa, Aneth, Montezuma Creek, or Red Mesa. B. Yep, B. So what's that? So, what's that? Those are your multiple choice. But Elana, if you guys want this email to you guys, we can do it too. We can send it to you. We have positions. We actually have position papers drafted. We have a lot of things that we haven't shared. We're trying to develop this with the land board as a whole. Right now, we're trying to get assistance on fund management plans. If we could ask if you know anybody that can help us draft it, because we have escrow money that we need to spend too. So yeah, and then back to the original questions. The Asahode dates and land boards. We don't have staff, we don't have an office, we don't have much. All we have is we produce ourselves. We buy our own equipment, we buy our own ink, we buy our own printers, whatever we use on the hita. Baby indi kai ako. Tibin na yahe lata ayu hita hanoch kaslende. But yahe, that's why we have a bag. So my question to you, sir, is enforcing the federal trust responsibility is central to Eastern Agency land issues. Where has the duty been honored or breached in your view? How would you hold the federal government accountable? Now back to the questions with 4-minute replies.
Could I read the question?
I can't. Hold on.
Kala, very much. Enforcing the federal responsibility. Duty. The question here, it says, enforcing the federal trust responsibility as central in the Eastern Agency land issues, where has the duty been honored or breached in your view? And what would you hold the federal government accountable? Since 1868, we've had a treaty with the U.S. government. And after the long walk, we all came back and we claimed areas of land, which is turned into homesite leases or grazing permitted areas. And I believe we're kind of being overrun by entities coming out off the reservation and taking advantage of our being complacent because we think everything's okay, but it's not. I'm a grazing permittee holder in the Herfinale area. So we do have issues of encroachment upon our areas because of the oil and natural gas companies. We don't know what type of negotiations are done until the signs and the fencing are put up. So I believe that it's being breached every day. Every day that we go there, they just pretty much just kind of run over us. So I believe that the way that we fix this is we go back and we talk to them again, and with the help of the delegates and also the president himself to go back in and look at a lot of these negotiations that were done. A lot of times it's done by the delegates. They go and they make those choices for us. Even though we elect them to do so, sometimes it's not in the best interest of us. So we do put a lot of our trust into the land board, and I appreciate this invitation you guys have done, and I appreciate the help that you guys have given us, and thank you for giving us that. I can't long.
Could you answers the but when we have our meetings, we try to do everything visual. Mr. Chi, Land and Grazing Authority are scattered across the Division of Natural Resources. Land Department, Minerals, Water Resource, Fish and Wildlife. خليت أني نبكي الديل نهتو إلا خيت بثنا نشكو أصلا دوتلي.
أكيد أبى هزنو نايدي كيد كدو. دي خيبك الديل نهتي كيا بدا ديت يودا النشكي أكون نشتيز يوججنه. كدوش نلا وهزقو بتشا ده أو كاسة بتشا هو يدا تكيزو ستاهجي لا كاتليا سي بيغا هينا ياهجي. Who would you appoint to be your lead man in the question here? Number one, to me, the neck etchiyastiki hala kaya heza beketlakin le hanne bedatit I ado kon nan tim bedatit I kado ebel gana etchide yastki goto ehozenda and the nehastwi sani itanne Lebet lachte yada die yin den ne kwa kaya na khaydna die nats illet nihinast it o lelko et zilta die yin zil nihininel go benigon kahat ido lel that supersedes the United States government, that supersedes state government, tribal government. Ade khanne behotit idi kaya Kaya hatrit ehigido beke hatit ido bekan kejt leto bekado najn khadigi sahot ajnes hajanshi the bebenan but the bebenal sos kohonin de khode et bebeyin da hollo libiyin da hollo jo et edo khbe hozano et apohollo ijil tonaban jgase kaya bedet igi kwa be hozan ko bayat higi ko ado apel ko belgana kashido blahun tlagi nana kot sto sa baholloni gi kot bekeda hodon ado athisti eti tenne kat oyo isen sando bahon sen go kada tisti na khanle shipra do tot khana hos age khada ade Shananishish Oyo Tsek Habane Khe New Mexico Kojidan Nenahalem Arizona Kojigodan Nenahalem Oyo Ibikahon that the Edat Ehegi She Arizona Basazano Tsakisko Adobat Ade Kododio Tode Kehwit Indian he do destiny or less. Got Abena Edota. And he ate at Asanit, let Asan his Navajo Nation it. Hajashi is at a nation day. Asahatet ahead, Asaban Sahakis go not the Nen Hans Edo less, but it Neniki Joy hot aban sea case. A needy yet over Bahotis Sako. Kodo IX Estroyot sit or listen late and Nebet Hahot Hoda the Sigi. Betrado seha no tratino ba at nella da dinni do bejeta yilla ande di grazing officially gi apideya do tanoich ahniya no jo et hegi dotta the nessa bit jillon ko basa hoto nessa shito da do shil anni da jnon ji gahiki e kotan sakhes edo bi gata the neya jo ba go ken zendo go do naked ki kina rago so nishito edo shil anni da kodo bin ye not anin slinte jo Baiki sin zenik and zenin nachigo da leis on yonder dotas ye kot on habanses case odishne you see the division of natural resources is the biggest, the largest money, the largest division there is, so it's a real critical decision. Thank you.
Niels ko betlen del na show ko ebenna dan del kit. Mr. Jones. Your question, A.D. Quaggy. The net land stewardship is inseparable from cultural and spiritual responsibility. How do you integrate the net fundamental law and the principle of Hojon into concrete land decisions without it becoming rhetoric?
Khashna akhotnishna this question directly pertains to that, the Chaco Canyon issue. A moratorium elia Deb Holland, Department of Interior, a 10-mile buffer zone, you cannot produce. Even though you're an allottee and have legal title to that allotment, you can do whatever you want with it. Nana Bask is go ya kote di tabayani ahagana such a jegi evap doba wind either di ko hoti yeno has no he the nana na kis ani ape ella. This is a fundamental question. Hoti yeno has ale. Jun he edi nahaga ko so doesn't it ihiki. Hoti yeno has mean it's a sacred site. Ako nahagata kweda alna hota dot ani kat otol ko na atada. Because ani banta holong. Nit is not nilithoda as lenge ha she kwegin is nilo dot adol ko na atada. Kelchida bit is hatsidan chilti. Kwegin is nilo sha hot en that's a sacred site. Akodik ade a sacred site hat no go shehet ibn yatik ade velagana over 550,000 non-Navajos go through there every year. Why do you allow that? Number two is the fact that jo sani da din lo da kodat dilzen no hot up and tin ebebe ani got so what are you talking about? Are you talking about the sacred site or are you talking about something else? This is a fundamental law question that we have. If we apply natural fundamental law, traditional law to this, Dohand ota toskasa. Nihido kis ani no senit anin het khadon hisodzen tenosnota. Eshe het ya eti don't obetate noskasa. You can't have it both ways. Da gat dohot eda. Jod the nebebe his ani ho kodeton nitland so nihikodedik ade all these sites that are there, whether there's energy production what do you need? Dik at hahoshin kwege solar hat no bana alte. Ako shehet di Johana epe enit di don de biyel ba il ne ho ko de peso pe il on bane khe. Where is the yel? That's an application of fundamental law. Ako di kwege, we have to answer that for ourselves here as the Navajo people. We have to enforce that if that's what we're going to do. Juk ande kot anana aj. A lot of our relatives died from that. But yet we have Navajo Nation law in place that says tota. But what are we doing? We're finding other ways and loopholes to have uranium transportation or silos that are nearby. So tipe has aniki e tobik ehonil ida. That's where it's at today. So you need leaders that are going to do that. The law has to prevail. So you need leaders who are going to abide by the law.
Thank you. Dikodo, Mr. Russell Nandish Kidigi, I don't know if you can see it. It says, at the end of a 4-year term, what specific measurable land and grazing outcomes in the issuing agency would you tell voters you succeeded? Dinana khaja khaila yusabin nachin ishla khailan khalla khot zad dinni khojo khot zogi. Measurable land and grazing outcomes in the Eastern Agency would you tell the voters you succeeded?
In the next 4
So
years?
you became president, but at the end of it, what would you tell them?
Oh yeah, yeah. You cannot honestly the Kaya Eastern Agency do land board halate pendo nisto halate bitsilo do link. Shade up grazing official been up not so hade zoto been deni ado but based on that elgehi the hado nis would be land board and it lini do skihon kitchen da elgeya. To tell you the truth, guys, we only get $1,600 a month for land board. That's it. Do anke chirbe ton da helni do chirbe ken da helni do oil change don ke chiri just sko edel ako don ke hanita ako next 4 years I want to bring the pay raise for the land board ako baseballs ando LDA no ke na nacha chon base but da hadloya niket leslio na ke da has kanzo Chichenahana, clean later, into here, the can't get a caution, Milkin Schneid Horse and it as clean order, into he'll catch other hand, not your baby chicken. Other int and I need a baseball unshot, LDA shot, to order the hood at either. A co that's what I want to do, help upgrade the land board. Fee status, don't take up a base of the Hanodo, Benbe, fee card, the Hanodo, AI, so that Shada Henry Jesus delegate and Lena down back in the early 80s. Noya land board was one of the most powerful person in Winderot. Noya had that night back then. Kadetan, beyond that's what they think of us. Although I want them to make their own rules and bylaws. I've been a job they need. A kokade utagaho it's under Department of Ag. Not so Sunday so up here. And they Department of Ag. Although there's RDC banana skins. Are you not asleep? Although that's where it goes to the land board. Although the not edo halate about sida kis nankit it near. I don't be last link, so why giving to us on this? So I want them to have the more authority to it. I don't want them to have their own office back then, yeah, land board. Guess where our office is at? That's our office. I was told, are we full-time employee to Navajo Nation or not? The full-time employment, she don't need. At one time, you're not full-time employment, that's why don't land kitchen alligator she don't need. I call it 7 days a week, 365 days. They never can't they clear or do I don't clear thing the Abon they come. The nether kaya here, so do land dispute, do animal trespassing the Abon they kai. I call though they don't acknowledge us at Window Rock. I call in my 4 years, next 4 years, I want the land board to have more authority. I'll do another one. I want to change the land board name to landlord. Binarishni lake can cut it up bagano. Landlord and can out Irabana Kajo Sandal Gizia. Ako Ede, what are the states out of here?
Yeah, Mr. Noble. Dean, the question, yeah. The Navajo Nation Trust Land Leasing Act of 2000 and the Navajo Nation's General Leasing Regulation of 2013 let the nation issue most leases, residential, agricultural, renewable energy, telecom, without BIA or secretarial approval. Yet mineral leases and rights-of-way still require federal sign-off. How would you use and expand the self-governance authority, and what is your plan for bringing mineral leasing and rights-of-way under Navajo control? We getting Tosh? Hold on. Let me just point it up. Ashad apel chanekis. Better? In ish.
Ani hulna hogoko. Eshit ani ltsko ben nashil nishot ebiga. Land board do grazing officials that aid our koje tabagaho zande celeste that has trado lehigido ni besbangas an dibe has ani nit ane the nod in hajo out of kheshe yisep mahnalige do le ko agishi bakhahatol tsal ade eben nachiko und da bit on nishgit bit on nishkadet agit oit as na hat anaznel go nekozibe nahodlin hikita hit no o binina on hilchi I khalla ho ko o yad nash ko dik atit o behes anigi asaiba sa it onan tlata aita koji khishi bahon ti do lesbiniga hot o nash isnanta
Yeah. Your question again, yeah, a home site lease application requires a certified survey, archaeological, and biological clearance, a full environmental review, written consent from every grazing permittee within half a mile, a process that can take years while thousands of family lives in homes with no lease at all. How would you cut the backlog without gutting cultural and environmental protection?
There's a couple of things that are happening right now with related to ARPA funds. So at the end of the year, December 31st, all of our highest priorities in the nation are to ensure that we have home site leases so that infrastructure can be put up for these additions that they're having, these bathroom additions. Right now, it is said, and I'm trying to prove the point in a few different ways, is that if you go over to the land office and you walk in there, it is said you can get a home site lease in 1 day. Now, have I tested it? I've gotten part way. So when you go in there and you use your Google Earth map, you can create your survey. And then when you go to call the archaeological office and you ask them for costs and bids, there's two things that I tested that what happens is the land office will tell you, go ahead and go out and get your quotes. So I did. I was curious. Our quotes came up anywhere from $400, $800 to $1,500. But for veterans, it can be waived. So, but you have to show your documentation for that. And then when you go to the chapter house to go turn in the paperwork, the administration, the staff that are in the office, they tell you the exact opposite. You cannot go get your quotes. We do it ourselves. Red flag. Why do they have to do themselves? So when you look at all these steps that are involved with getting a home site lease, it tells me that the chapter house probably have their friends all lined up to do the survey rather than making it an open market so everyone has a chance. So as you go through this process, you can find out that there's many different steps you can take because every person you talk to tells you how to do it a different way. There is no consistent structure. There is no training for chapter administration. There is no director right there telling the staff, you have to do it like this. So when it says, how would you cut the backlog? It's kind of hard to cut the backlog because everybody is doing everything different. So what has to happen, and some of you might understand this, but you have to have a universal training option on your online portal. Everybody needs to see the same message the same way, both in English and Navajo. And then the turnover rate is really high in the chapters. One day in January, you might come and see somebody, person A at this building, and then by the next month, by March, they're not there. Then you have somebody new. Or else we have personality conflicts. I don't get along with this person, that person doesn't get along with me, he doesn't talk to her, they don't talk to each other. And then there's this issue of nepotism. Everybody, they only help their family members, they don't help me. We have so much that we have to do to figure out how to do this. So without gutting the cultural and environmental protection, we have to start with us. Everything on the nation today starts with us. We have to figure it out. We have to retrain ourselves because it was said earlier, we're no longer in the 1930s. This is 2026. We have to relearn everything because the laws in the U.S. are changing faster than we are. We're barely moving, and then we get mad and we get upset when we don't get our way. So there's a lot of opportunities, but training has to happen first. And then we have to welcome that training. We can't be mad about it. The responsibility starts with each of us. And so I think that there's really important steps in here. But the cultural component and environmental protection must stay in place, especially if it's land that hasn't already been disturbed. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't, nas nana do lately, hey, Mr. Trujillo. Diquado, home site, because a home site lease requires consent from every valid grazing permittee. Within half a mile, a single permit can stall a young family's home. How would you resolve the tension between established grazing rights and the housing needs of the next generation?
You know, looking at the consent process, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this since my time with DNR. And it's just not looking at other home sites, it's looking at different types of economic development efforts where family can say no to something and it stalls the development for the benefit of a full chapter. What I would look here is, again, as I explained before, really coming forward and having some serious discussions on how we begin to look at consent and how do we work through this process. Because again, the families may have difficulties with one another. How do we either resolve that or how do we work through that? You know, we've got to come up with options as to how we want to do this. Because right now we're stalling ourselves and we're stalling our efforts to bring new housing into the area and to bring viable economic development into a given region. And so as I look at consent and looking at home site development, it really comes down to really gaining that common ground between individuals, having those discussions and seeing how we can develop options to do exactly this. And again, those discussions will be difficult. I've had discussions with chapters, bringing chapters together. It took 2 meetings to get people to get past the ill will and then to start working together. We've got to go through that process. And as we go through that process, we begin to develop ways to address this and figure out how do we develop options that will benefit both the consentees as well as those who want that particular area developed. So that's what I would be looking at with home site leases. And one last thing I want to add besides this, you know, I respect my brother here, Tom Chi, but looking at a DNR director, I would look for somebody who can think critically, whether they know Navajo or not. I was the Division of Natural Resource Director for 11 years. I understand Navajo, but I don't speak it well. I was able to get and understand what the people were saying, and I was able to communicate. And we got results done. If you get critical people who can help with people like this issue, bring diverse communities and individuals together and start figuring out how do we resolve these issues? How do we talk? How do we discuss? Then we have that opportunity to really bring up some good solutions, some really viable solutions that we can all work around and that we can all use to develop our communities, improve your quality of life, and provide for our children, because we want our kids to come back. And that's the only way we can get them back, is to create jobs and opportunity. We've got to be able to do that. Okay.
Mr. Dash, di could a home site lease by his anegi, di on the Ranja Yahos. Di ha one das Niligi 2016 the Hado but said it last Adalia. A co AD base which in Degi, the American Rescue Plan, the Slenigi. ajut kodo tonchko tiltlish. Aro di kodo broadband linigi. Ya atolchoch at the neta di kodo di hagin des nachago December 31st, 2026 ajba ako elachit aba na di kodo ba in
Yeah. Ani bahasti. Dibe has anige kenal koide. Nal sosda youth kesen del Code of Federal Regulations get the schnobe ni hasti. Ako ya shape nash ni sekunde bi hosh. Et ehigit Ako ya ndok asobiga. Ako ni koroda ni Washington oyen hiljiz. Khoda ne kojonan pal. Izin hilnot obekek how eat in the ones how holds how say ya do tabedi nil jo hot au ye ya coronas be the jo hot I by yel tie ho shi kodo Dash administration hot out that deal nil adot oban za keso di kwe hadet ehegi on zahache no ye hos ya da hot out nil hashit out on zahache hot out that jilla Jot Ivan Zahakis. A quaid shigo yaha 88 dobet or asta. Joriad skis autos neatly, Toya hadot loss, a son Lishia hadot loss, Iron da yaha 80, Beshbe hene, Quebech hadot zigi, Jo edat yaha et all neatly, skis autos neatly, Hushe no. Jot aban zakis ebene na ik abkendi dat het toch niet is die edobet o asa hontan tau an nasbe ho gato le jot aiba yeltke do letin heo benadish nenige ya edi contracting officer slinde John hit the snon hit rasne ebi yonne ya eto obe his anik at ho dischi the whole jisho has kibet sit so yen what our edi so kagish klejibik endet ot zochon be ever tado so bekendet ot zochon what our holjish ero dot da de nil halet our ya what I ba yat la jot aban za kesa ko ye ko eben datilnish aron de ya ebe hidil sot aron da ya dot da de nil ni ko hot au nit zen jot I ba hadit zeho ben nachet shnenigi dit na bekeya bakai hawat zogi ni khaz anigi ya you heard it here has anigi Churchrock. Yeah, when that's on. Ako yaha 80 ke yaha hawat zogi Navajo Nation. Yaha 638. Zgat and is what ligi hot out in his hawat zo. Ako Washington. Yen his jiz. Nada ne ti nada ne his no disjid in his holds. How say dot that it nis. How say it an hit out the dit as compact nash nahun igi datil nis hot iban case and here that and the never Washington showed it at and is the hot of not the tika. Did that eba yata tiki hotat and eba hadits. Hinits and it out is nis. The nen of Senegi has twisan in of Senin the Senate out of this. Grazing permit by Yatki or Aden Washington, Honeta di not out of Kahoyika. Kadedo list, what are you eba yelti elaho and Hinits and it out that is nis. What around the 8638 a hunty bed or as Aro compact or that the dika. Jo what ya 80 temporary government that no ya yadaski. Don't say the go ya what out in hatch at the yila. It all what out obekeho yika. Halet out ya what elans and the Dash administration when that's now ya 80 Washington beyond that it as Aron the shenanigate out 638 never the bed or as the court at ayen his jigi best has anigi ekadole jot I by eltigit elaho nash at the kato zesh and ebiasan nelda to zesh and the 638 at eda jot I hold jishuk at and it has under the never kay up nas so when he lao kadole that it no by eltigo in na the snow the these not tent asayos car. Ja is Tagon Dasetta Frank Dash Jr.
Di kwagi nandish kirigi jodi kwado Navajo Nation kwado ba det general leasing regulation aro home site behez ani khata hatsoge e kwade bahni liya ako dit khat nazle na hat abaganje ya hebik enit ango LGA de lenegi aje ba det ango ye bohol niko aro ish ash nigo yad halyara le josh chon irole. You can read your question.
Oh, yeah, great question. I think this has been a dilemma over the years, but I would love to give the chapters all the authority that they have, especially if they're LGA certified. But we know there's problems with that. It almost begs for each LGA certified chapter to have their own legal team. I think thinking outside the box, if we could get away from our dependence on federal dollars and we start developing our own sources, our own pots of money, our income streams, much like some of the other tribes that are doing very well right now. I highlight the Southern Ute Growth Fund, which I used to work at. They are set aside from the federal or the government of the tribe, and they handle business matters. I think we'd have to model ourselves after them because that gives us another way to develop income that is non-federal because it comes with too many constraints. I think we would all agree, and that's why we're here. But to help the chapters and those that seek local LGA certification, we need to give them every right to be who they have sought to be. And that comes with maybe releasing them from even a council and executive branch oversight and bring in a more business-friendly Department of Justice as one of our three-branch governments, the judicial branch. We need them to have the proper trained real estate agents, those that understand sovereignty, those that understand the federal and BIA constraints that we've been under, and then work with the 26th Navajo Nation Council to recommend updating our laws, our own regulations that would coincide with working with BIA as they release. I think somebody mentioned it. I mean, BIA is shrinking. Will there be a day where we don't have to depend on BIA anymore? I would take this to the highest office in the land, the White House, and work with President Trump to perhaps write up an executive order that would deed lands back to us as the largest tribe. It would be a demo project, right? I don't think all the tribes, all 575 federally recognized tribes would be able to think at this level, but we would be the greatest case study, the Navajo Nation. Let us work with this present administration, President Trump write up an executive order deeding lands, and if not all our lands back, then certain lands. What about doing this for Eastern Agency? Because this is where our biggest constraint has been in the Eastern Agency. I'm thinking of planning versus just talking about it. I want to work with all of the authorities that we have right now that would listen to us. And I think right now, President Trump would be dying to do a Navajo and Indian country executive order. We just haven't asked him. We haven't brought forth a proposal where all of us would agree. This is outside the box thinking, I get it, but I think this is where we need to start looking. For 2 years, we perhaps have this opportunity to do that. This would release us into developing all the lands in every area that we have these constraints. And I know it's hard to fathom, it's hard to think about at this level, but this is where I've been the last few years saying, if I become president, I even think some of my competitors here, some of them would work well in a Lizer administration. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm chomping at the bit to start those discussions. But that's just what I think. And if I'd love to take any one of you that might have an idea to contribute to this thought, executive order deeding lands back to the Navajo Nation.
Oh yeah, 8 night is kicking out 1 o'clock, which are all kill. Did a lot of we have feral trespasses, our home site list that a grazing permit yobik. But I use which the hashika. Do I add any grazing permit with Hadasi neither? Which about the nature Hajo, the health social link logo, became ego, a nasty kid the seat zero little bit. A cop been not a Dean de nostra ni permit that this kid de ayudo ajuda. But this is what a grazing permit looks like for Eastern. 16, 19, and 20 you see use it. Ako di kwados el sozige it tells you the name, address, range unit, where it's at, and then the date from where it's valid to and when it expires. Hajaba halet any bili holonole hanelt at hakwibik end ile. Ardinan such a kwadone bedate leech a hate illa hate a quaggy yelki. Ako deep date lidigi tza erepa has arole on that range unit. Arabi yara das so hoke she di hot Din atahnilia provisions and conditions ben nache ya yelki in hahasan ado die dochon ida carrying capacity that in late nal khato lesat ninigi billah in lagi trespass and khahaz aro lesat nan lin kharon li could that ya yelki see the bekashi the beda hit ara da sango na nasalla isle Ako di aro enal tlonshiro ada ika slago di kwagi bebel ndahuilna nebel khatn ta federal government ni getn ta is el yagi et land board of bakada Department of Agriculture the bishop bakada chapter officials bishop bakada atahninlia Ako dishin shadel lad no ya ade khodosha ka orche no e un ka di chashin zache but na nasla cho khala ibn yelch adinlzen bakha na gan na belache ya di permittee responsibility agreement form sign na de yili e at ayan na nalki Ako di dat enigila hajobe bil takhwil na neketen na bayin ze Ako di kodo the kea but the bebnal sos nail so trespass at ninigidi that kea autobahn che residential home site lease ya hadas kin autobahn ahna nan Ako dabdi nigo di koda aji inadal yet Ako dino so hido kilo I can send you a copy of this but permittee bishop baka your catholic superintendent bishop na yili ben nache hajobe nada nitkin I'll say that khud la no bich khud la division director jana khud la bagadi tahi bich na hala be not dol sos tha nas de ban land board na grazing official abli hona dilgo ade ya hay permittees and notlenigi akhut belt di dahnin lia ni khed o nature ako edi khud na ya delki Tabidi no hajol and nakhai. Ako edi nasil kill hajo ben that nitkin. Oh nessa to be gashi but what haira alado betcho lilo ya an hagal sos hagat la hagal ye. Ako saw ya hedi kayal trasenil ge bia an hero dabidi ni a latis and habji da alle. To the ones that are under authority to grant a grazing permit, for a lot of lands, notify them that they're trespassing. Navajo Nation Irako Nahaz Ako Hodat Enigi you've been dating Nishkot. In short, Ako Anzan ni Kalam board and Oshani Kodin Heshi Naha Latni Te Be Dashni Nike Dashni Dan Kitosh Kit Aron He Dashzede Don Henos don Ashwa don Dash don Hano Kaihun Hidahon Masta Hano Solo did anybody at Dale Nikitella was over Bana short. Today we have our land board members, Mr. Alex Sandoval. He represents Torreon and Pueblo Pintado, District 20. Mr. Wilbur Murphy, our International Final Rodeo champ. I haven't got all his listing yet, but he represents a Yambitko and Pinedale, or actually we call it Wingate. We don't actually go by chapters, we go by grazing areas. Mr. Bobby Delgarito, Yahe, Casamaro Lake, Peru, and Baca Pruitt. Mr. Leo Pino, he's from Rama. He's on Ishkajid. And then we have Miss Kathleen Arvizo, Yahe. She represents Sayatko and Manuelit, Rock Springs chapter. Miss Noreen Kelly, Yahe here, Churchrock, Red Rock, and then Bahadle, or they know it as Pine Haven. Ko aji hota Lambert anonymly. We have to conflict of interest. On here the shit, yeah, not easy. That you see it, Hadaga, ako agent ki Lambert la. Ako hota hinat ani hinda has khano. There's other members that wanted to be here, but they couldn't make it. Though I was kind of a late notice, and we can proceed on if you like with some questions, or we can give you the floor to give you a campaign speech by that time. If we gave you our contact information, if you have any questions or if you want copies of anything, we're happy to share it. I wish Mr. Nota was here, our superintendent. Our superintendent. And one of the things he commented to us was that at our joint land board meetings, especially at District 16 meetings, we have our resolutions already prepared before the meeting. Everybody says, do we do that? Ako pada hazard ila benti je hat nitle. Ako lashjani da ile. Aro haltkol iho ajil iho nal sos yahal belsos. Ako yago altin nita. Ako joint land board elto. Ako sabeda hatitahi. Aji del. De agisin de ni keri heshi nat ani solito ndaso nedlo. Hajon hitl nish. Communicate with us in writing. Title 3 amendments. Land boards is not dend. What anal source don't he like el sosta? Die hundadoch as, dieben dadoch nish. Who be what on nitty hullo. You know how hard it is to get the Navajo Nation Code in Word format? When's the last time that the Office of Legislative Services corrected or actually updated the website for codes? I'll give you $5 if you answer it right. When's the last time? Almost. 2014, that's the last time. Whoever wins here, please appoint us an attorney, a lawyer, not an advocate. I'm sorry, advocates are good. But we had issues. Even 6:30, we want to be more productive. The Navajo has tandigi badate. The Naikwadon Banda illegal. Nabi Gahadan Hislin, the Joe Eben Nache, Bekena Hadot, Leso Hajosh Ken Nadika. A coe could the Hajona hot ado, to Ajan, the Hojaba Hinti, the Ajan Juno Bay delegate, Dankido Nidole. A quag in the Dainike. Peshmas, Anya, Nana, Kage. We'll see. Knock on wood, we get good ones again. So, potato lesson. Shouldn't I think about it? Not actually, Halet Adol. Do you want to go alphabetically or do you want to just go down the line? Down the line, Goshina. Mr. Leiser, Halan Zache, we want to give him 10 minutes. 20. All right. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. You don't have to use all of it. Timekeeper, but huh? They gotta leave. They gotta leave.
Alrighty, yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. Whether it's 3 minutes, I think we're well versed in our 3-minute spiel or even our 2-minute spiel. But 5 minutes, I could do this all day. Try to convince you on many levels why I should be your next president. I think it starts with job creation. My brother Arvin mentioned it, and everybody else agrees with it. Job creation, keeping our young ones at home. For you all in Eastern Agency, I believe it's in bringing our young ones that are studying the animal husbandry, range management, new technologies to bring water to our desolate, dry region. These are what we're trying to do, is bring them home. And so I believe job creation, so that we could bring them home, build homes, start businesses, and build our economic sovereignty, which is my platform. I also want to talk about water. We're in a drought. We're needing to harness everything. Whatever rain, whatever snowfall comes, we should be able to bolster our earthen dams and be able to retain water so that it doesn't bleed off and go down south and go downhill. We should be able to retain every drop that comes because we need it, not only for our animals, but for ourselves. Look for new technologies and start studying, bringing back our scientists, our young scientists that are hydrologists. Maybe even look to partner with California and Southern Arizona, where they're studying and maybe even bringing, by now, I haven't checked, ocean water, desalination. My good friend who I just got endorsed by, Chairman Mark Fox, Mandan Hidatsa and Kira Nation, they have a lot of water, and they're talking about bringing water down to the Southwest because of the need. They have the money. They're building a huge casino on the Las Vegas Strip right now, looking for investment dollars. It's going to be a $4 or $5 billion project. I want you to kind of expand your mind, the horizons. Let's get out of where we've been, and all of us. I don't have any disagreements with anything any of my competitors have said. I agree with them by a large part. We truly need to come together. The vision that's out there, the different minds, the different priorities. Let's come together, let's compromise, and let's get 1 or 2 projects which we can support. And let's go forward, full force, to the county level, to the state level, to the national level. And I think that's where a lot of our successes will be. I've already had success. I mentioned earlier, south of Chaco, there's 9 ranchers that are so happy right now because they don't have to haul water anymore. And if you have questions on that, I could show you the results that we have when I was vice president. $475,000 demo project that Remote Well Solutions was able to do with the help of Sandia National Labs, with the help of Arrowhead Center at New Mexico State University and the Small Business Association of New Mexico. We were able to bring water, and so they don't have to haul water anymore. So there are successes here. I want to build on those successes as your next president. Eastern Agency, you've always said that we as leaders, we don't come out here until campaign season. Well, I want to stay out here. I remember Melinda over at Torreon, who chastised me when I wasn't even a part of the leadership, as they were saying, you're a vice president candidate, you're one of them. And I took umbrage. I was a little upset. But you know what? She was from the heart. I'm willing to take the hits, take the pot shots, take whatever ridicule you might bring to me. And if it brings healing, so be it. I'll stand, but I'll fight for you after it's all said and done. After we, as Melinda brought peach cobbler and apple pie, and we shared a meal together, because sometimes that's what it takes, is just us understanding as leaders to know what your plight is, to listen, to give you an ear. And that's what me as a vice president did, and that's what I'll do as a president. There'll be nothing new in my administration other than collaborating with our LGA certified chapters, collaborating with the Eastern Agency Land Board, collaborating with the Alatis who right now are under fire. I don't want to come between them and the ability to make money, but they need to have a voice in this buffer zone. Is it 20 miles? Is it 10? Is it 5? What if there was nothing and they were able to tap into all the mineral rights that they could? I believe when the president is saying energy dominance, we need to be a part of that discussion. Energy dominance. What does it mean to our Latis? What does it mean to all of us? It's 5 minutes. I thought you were just saying amen. I could tell you, I could do this all day, and I appreciate this opportunity, so God bless you. Thank you.
Yat nana va hele Churchrock. Adoi ya kaya benant ada no seni ni tada atje hoda na hizo tkhani ana tskhojinan airo tabedo ni. Aleit anna la a inetes sol. Ana tskoyat en gitshnido let. Ke ya haba helot arodi ya ba yat kodo. Oshe Yaha D.A. Yaha Frank Days Jr. Aro number 6 gon taseta. Hot last gon taseta isja atshada di yohnel. Benna shada di yohnel gi etiba yashki. Akwadi hon has tkhane de no je gido ara Facebook da de no tsagi endes gizat. Aro kon haiso tkhane do da sa asa na haiso tkhane go. Shik no senigi has twi Sani, Aaron, the Isa Check, Setzelkin, Shil Chin, Yat En hit the Schnidole. Oh, Yaha 80 hole, just this sheet, Dino Sagi, when his hole, just not stand, but car, when he logot, 8 anant, and hit now the nest. The Hode crash, he now that echo jet set, Yaha anolji. Nana Toto Benina, Yaha or no ash. Johot Abba Yatiko. Aroda Huichin, what our Yabe, who a Dahodits. I cannot go now, has he said a great or hit out and he get the Zista. Ha laid out a legit Avan, Zahakis. A coebini na a Yahai citizen that they no slaggy, Traditin that they no sassy, Shishin Nale, what any even not Schneho. Aron the do a Yaha dinner sauce that they no Jahagi. Aaron, the Traditin, Aaron, the Native American Church. Yahabe, the Ahidil, Sarot, the Nanny, lending it anil, so Yahai citizen that it asked, Yat Eon, his now dot, asked that the Niki Hotol, to Hojot Iban, see case a co. When not the Shnani Honi now has Anigi at the hot, Egit out, Qua hot eho, Yahai say Yatki, the Hodlo, Horobeha out, say Yatki, the Hodlo, Sajin, the Hodlo. Aaron that said that Stral, the truck is on the Etahot, Eba Atahonosen. Aaron than Santa Betkin, Ncheta Betkin, Etahot, Ehegi Honke the hot, any as Ashan Zanago, who a visit the whole long this the whole dish. In here when it even not the snail, where the church touch a wheat. A Kodiko. Unneed map, any sauce, Ndan lay snee, where she cashed, the snow. Kodon so banses case on the shell. Shedet it by Yastigi. Kaya by Yastigi, shedet is a lean hot no shadow hunster. What are ye a need? What are needs when headed it by it that I near Jodil need, Jot are ye ebony not the snare. I run the quail, the sneddy it out there, not Jehigido, Aro, Dino Sagi, a Hajobi that off tree. The never came up and asked the Bakagi, not a hole, just a Yaha Akon Hatahos. No, Johotzaho. Are a Yaha cannot go that yen kitishness, yen hit Jijabiga in his eat. This gene the Kadi did on his ho. A coebe has anigi yen hinadness. Shit the snow what an house, ebony naibik and not edolet. Did a kayanatzo, did a Hareha needle peso, a yahu what our bends, so good nature, what adne, Shibe, Shohod Nato, John Hisneho, a cadedolet, Jot Ivan, Sike, Shay Winston, the Adet Hotel Regional, so Sunny, who is a sozo, the Yilda. 1976 and 638. The never came up in the house, Zoe. Who shall get or Tinte, no Jaggy, a job at the house. A quote, Eggy art, a hainan, Agon his horse. Nijay Yatki, Aden, Hikihoti, Annie, Quake at our corridor lesson, his nettish sheet, when it's corridor less that the Neho, Ehui, Zagi, Epe has Anipa, with the home by Yadaki, CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. Shay Ya Eho, E Ajiba Yashki, John hit the Sneho. Benin na beyond that quaihot, a by Yatiki, not Zogi, Besahot outdoor, Delegation Belsen. So what I even that deal, Nishon hit the Schneho, Code of Federal Regulations, Sahot out that deal, Nish, Ha Ayan Hinash, Nediation and Ahodoya Hatzi, 638 and the Leon Genot, the Tikane, Shitagat and Sen. Nana Bagachet, Nana 638, Equa, Compact, Equa, AD Giebets in Titika, AD Ben Hohodnito, Little Nebekaya Pakai, Benasli, Frank Days Jr., number 6, when then had that the young Nitla.
Joy, yeah, Nana. Again, looking at what I'm wanting to run on, given my background, being head of Division of Natural Resources 11 years, being a CEO for nonprofits, the American Indian Engineering and Science Society, being the CEO for Four Corners Economic Development, being in management positions with Arizona Public Service Company, BHP, you know, having this experience, being able to run, as Mr. Chi noted, I ran DNR, one of the largest divisions in the Navajo Nation. We produced results. We were able to expand 491. We were able to lift the Bennett Freeze. We were able to build the Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project. Those were done under the times of my leadership, initiated, and they're moving forward. So we were able to come together as a collective group and move forward with positive results. And again, what we're looking at here is the aspect that I see true potential in our nation. I see the possibilities before us. Yes, we are in a time of conflict and turmoil, but we can turn that around. I've seen it happen. We have that capability. You know, I'm looking at 3 specific areas. First, restore the working relationship of our government so we can have a government that works together, focusing its efforts on solving the challenges that matter most to our communities and improving your quality of life. That's the first thing we got to do. The second thing is to work with our government employees and staff to bring a customer-focused attitude where program services and support are provided in a timely manner. Our communities will also know where every dollar is spent and how it's reasonably utilized to better service you. Our people deserve a government that listens, responds, and delivers results. Third, I will work to build a strong economy that will fund our government operations, diversify our economy, and bring new economic opportunities that will support small business development and create jobs that bring young people home. That's key. We got to bring our young people home. We've increased our population by 100,000 Navajos from 2010 to 2020. 100,000, we're at 400,000. But you know what? On the reservation, our total population in 2010 was 170,000. In 2020, that went down to 165,000. Our off-reservation Navajos were at 158,000 in 2010, 260,000 in 2020. All our growth was off the reservation because we don't have things to keep our young people here. We've got to start looking at job creation. We got to start looking at business development, workforce development. And from that, utilizing a strategic planning process. You're talking about Eastern Land Board. How do we begin to bring together the board working on a strategic process? Here's the plan, here's what's going to be accomplished, and this is how we're going to do it. And reporting to you on progress. Here's where our money's being spent, and this is how it's being done. Being able to do that with the nation's employees, all 5,000, so that we generate results. We're just not going to meetings to have meetings, we're going to meetings to get things done. We were able to do that with natural resources. I shared some of the major projects, multitude of issues, working with the federal government, the state government, counties to achieve this. We are working on one right now that I'm a part of, bringing a railroad to the Four Corners region. Looking at that as a way to build economic development. Looking at how our chapters can begin to include itself in economic development. So those are things that I'm working towards. Those are things that are fundamental. We have to get our government working together, and we've got to work with our employees to get that customer service effort in place. So again, if you want leadership that understands how to turn ideas into action, vote position 3, Arvin Trujillo. Thank you.
Thank you. A few years ago, I helped to oversee and manage over 6,000 employees with the Navajo Nation government. And we experienced a lot of hardships through that time because it's a transition. So as we go into this new administration, we are going to be working with $197 million to get us started. None of this group will have a say in that today unless we're over at the Budget and Finance Committee hearings. So today, when we go in, we're looking at a lot of limitations. We're going to have to tighten our belts. We're going to have to do so much. But here with the Eastern Land Board, the Eastern Agency, I see a lot of things happening across the nation. We're experiencing a mega drought. We're dealing with soil doesn't have any moisture, but this morning we did, which was nice. We also have streams that have slowed flows. Something that rose really high, flowed strong, is now barely trickling through our communities. We also have vegetation mortality. We have forage that when you drive along the highway, you can see easily where we have overgrazing happening, and we're struggling for our animals. And because of that, we have new normals that we have to deal with. When we talk about these new normals, we're seeing livestock that are starving. We're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for hay, feed, to take care of the animals. We also experience the death of livestock if they're running on the road and they get hit, or else they're just without water. We see these challenges, and this is a new normal. This has to do with climate change. It has to do with so much. Some of it might seem out of control, or out of our reach to take care of, but we have to work together. We have to address these issues. So when we look at this, we think, how does this apply to me? What can I do? We first have to look to our left and to our right, and we ask, is this person here to really help? Are they here for profit? Or are they here because they really believe in protecting our land and our animals? Yes, that person to your left and to your right. We have to find out where they sit. And then we have people who also are there, they have no idea the value of land. They're just living. Maybe they're living with parents, maybe they have addictions, maybe they're struggling, and they have no idea what this means. We have families in here who have had livestock for generations, and they want that to be cared for. But when our young people don't understand the meaning or the value of land or livestock, or even rights to what our land base is, where are we going to end up? So when I think about all of these things, I know that in Eastern Agency, we know that there's patchwork. We saw the map earlier. Everyone says this is so complex here in Eastern Agency. But what I think about is, wow, Eastern Agency is strong. They're resilient. They know that the patchwork exists. They know what it's called. They know they're headed in the right direction, and they can take care of it. We will have to navigate this together. You, me, and also people with the BIA, BLM, we have to do it together. We can't say, oh, it's their responsibility, it's theirs. We have to do it together. And like we said earlier, we're going to have really hard conversations to talk about that elephant in the room. That elephant is real, not just in here, but also in Winter Rock, also in different chapters. We have to be grown-ups. We have to behave like grown-ups. We have to be able to take that criticism just like all of us are. We probably have received the bulk of the criticism in our communities, and we have to be grown-ups together. So when we have these hard conversations, we can move toward healing. We can learn how to talk with each other, not at each other. When we go forward, we can see that we can be a really strong moving part in this process. So going back to what I said earlier, I want to restore dignity in our communities for you, for you, for you, and for me. I want to improve customer service so that when you call somebody, somebody will answer, they'll pick up, or they'll respond to you. I want to increase communication all across the board, back and forth. We need to talk to each other. But the most important thing we have to do is we need to listen to the people first. Thank you. Debbie Nez Manuel, candidate number 12.
Jana hea juk eno senigi hwa. Hono sonigi ados nant kodona na thanigi do. Eastern Land Board hit nenigi. Hea hwa en haosla. Ado hasil tsogo nikitil ado hasil tsogo tolle. La na no senigi kodo nihche nonel. Benache kodo ba konitzendolich. Neje. Ado ta altsogo nikaya. Dina be hobe kaya pakao hatahuis zogo. Tahona anago the quigoshi in the hasti. As at or never in the hasti to asagit or asagit on here in the hastita. Je konde in need. Lato benachet nanhitos kito benachet ekut nikiti nido benashi. Latoshi big itraso. Hot o ya kodone neje. Katna kitamo hatsi. Ad bahan detolis. Ad ya nihipe nikohotli shike no senegi. Hashit o ya nihin zakisla. Hashit o nihin antikinsla. Hashit o ya nzokis. Eshi benache kodo naha tranegi beshin han zokis dolis Adon detta she sezendo ya nikilin desh nish jot do ya o de nen hitche il ada dolis ad kombetna shahi ahtelne hot o etota dina nishiki kombna sol tranigi land board no senigi o huge na nishote the bebenan ebenan ahananat a quote dots dan hiholni dan halon hitnel jahot en the code nahat ho aden dan hikra has tilya so dan hi a ko koden hit ni shoy ko atike ya hotel ko ke ya point an leden shi hot At the Hagit o ya Don his old Dojon his old Tata, Sabra hot Zande. Department of Ag, do I say Yan Ha on Zenda, is she been in Nato? Any Kodosh Chinagi had Z Nanish Adol Nisben Yego. Zeta. The ne ya hon zenigi. The nebel a hot the ya hon zenigi. The ne la nan zenigi belbaha zenigi jo nahando niso episentilnish. Directors dan lenigi. Do it oboholnegi, do it o campaign. Ben yan hiken da al degi do it o Nenda do nesta sheot obanses case. The neige sechishinan yet a house sinigin, the nebenanish don't it that the nebecat o was bahas zenigi. Shibanses case. A could o ya hajo and il nil. A nahot ikat. Not any basebahas andon hinanta, executive branch. At the shne. But that I could nesha. Though such a nillet out, the potato I could nesha. Out of the base of the mill so. But when any benina, the potato I could nesha. Hala hot. A coat, do ya shonda, Nihan ha yosna. Nenit lenigi, shita honsta, Should the behalo, which in and scat, the and lat out, Binia that the beopan that self jolly, others should have it low. Speka si hollo, to lead hollo. Oh, others must send us a chase ya house, not card be. A co eben that's it, landboard no siniki. Hashin so go kaya has at or could the Eastern Navajo and get the Nenigi kaya haki the cuisine at oh be nasness. It's pretty interesting. Latin Nige was Dodger Kewit in Eastern Navajo to go to net, Nikilla is a do nahoti than Hadlen. Could they all use it nahoti or a bahon sensual? Just said good net, that's it. Larry Noble, in Shia. Position 7, July 21st, so I shot he couldn't eat or they share.
Yet, Ado Hansa Hotel Tea. A cat couldn't have no key. Washing not on the house, condos large in our town. I don't wash not on the house. I don't lay that with Sando here. Ah, what to be here? Say not on these things. So, the bathing is in a road, to be shadowed lot of door to Don Galan's skate and sauced here. The kin also tiny, a shift, laid out eye, a shift. Though I don't have the on the baseball, I don't have that title. I don't slinger, no president don't slinger, no speaker don't slinger. I don't slinger. I taught lay drywall school at San Juan College one time. Of course, you guys can call me the professor. I call it drywall, but I'm kaya, but like on a chin, you don't need drywall any. So when scared, you can call me the professor. We have doctors, we got lawyers, because they all be the professor. Oh, yeah. I don't kahan slada, shadahan sla. I showed the Eastern Agency once it our case. Do Chaco Canyon buffer zone. Kiss on to the haka. Which aren't our scott. Car and another dinner, dinner, think the meal hot so the never kaya hitch at the heka. 354,000 acres. Kiss on hits on each at the haga, each at the haka. A call hits on dating the never kaya hasha. Hajador lake. Hong Leum. Long years down, which Casimir Lake down, which on lay. Naigisa Cado, Smith Lake, Whitehorse, Aja Hunza, that's how big the buffer zone is. What the bands go? A coashon of Putanda Ashkar. Dota, Dodo Nita Kiss Anido, how one Kayan Kaganated out after. Deep buffer zone by it inside allotment, hello. So said be hello. But now go trust land. Hagish Kiss Anibe, Bohardly, at 10. I don't say BLM, she ate a cut the begun. I guess a carja. Not that dinner to sit the neck, he cut the begun. Eight and it's not trouble here, Lossie wrote the bed. A call. I showed the Bacado, just land exchange at least 500 feet. A Hunza BLM, he caught the double gun. Tratino is that Nakada, Hawana Garden. East Tiada, NJ BLM land, Dan Chache Trust land. I caught Transatin on Stanaka today, this cheated 400 feet in BLM. Of course, BLM Kayan Kedani. Once in our case, 500 feet in 35 years. I should know what they are. I'm going to go back into the late Aztec, I'm going to look into the land, remember now, so you see how big it is. Change it, it's though the Nebuchadnezzar trust land, you'll get BLM, ye boldly, he caught the Halita grazing permit, he edo ya, he needs that, the no, he can't house when I issue out BLM permit, the near. Ako ete nebe ka bekeya ho. Ako hashit be Buddha hali. 1946 at BLM has lean. 1992. It down when it's recognized as a BLM land. And needed BLM is a new word that came up. Ako hota. Ako shadasli. I'm just of grassroots auto indistinctly. Kona has traheya. Would be Bahat Ilsen. The Nevada has sent. They're like Coke, Dr. Pepper, a Sprite. Yeah. Shide, Shasta. A kohata on to the kid. I don't care. Things are done at the here.
He likes grape Shasta, purple color. Shohen he khali. Kodenesh san is ya that it ayil sande 1974 handa kende. She November 1974 Salt Palace hol yele gonet andesh da satan gait andes khalile bilchil kiet. John de Honesna. Wilbur Murphy, world champion bareback rider, Salt Lake City, Utah, 1974. Come on, hey. Ahya, shikeno slenigi, kodot eya, keya, ndlenigi, bahwind ido, biyu, sedlahagido, bakagi, hot ehegi, a kohot e konza hot e be hilwilne, a konza ho hol jij. The uniqueness of the land structure here at Eastern Agency. Akohot ya di hot ago el case in the ligibe hilwilna. Akoho de quigo shi baha otzi dikat. O hayugo baha otzi. Ako she kodona itish kitten leisha hat da at ishin nebik etses keso unst ele. Ako sain lenigi di a nahot ige do ani nahot ida. Eda nahot ida hot au. Ako at ya di naha a nahot at ope hilna huilna hot ele. Ako okonanet za dida. Ado kona ege di naha shihst et shlil. Shikuist za did ashla did iba hasan no ako hot aba na haljish hot abe na ilya hoege ado khona egi ya na edikidige jo hot ele khashit ado host ein lada jo hot na edish kidide ada na sha ilale ako I think it's a valid question because it determines where we're at now in our Navajo government. Kodohos oloslo kojoda haditin, like ade kojoda haditin, di kwegen hisna aznati dekat. Kojoda haditin nigi ek ade dik at itsa agi ajgoda haditin nigi aj hodlon ed. Nana kojoda haditin nigi ya ate he atate tga ye ekojigi hollo khatet ahoda atil niltid khat ishbeniget opa yeltkit khat eda epel gizo dat zrinl elende nichio ako ya epel khatis gistas khalet el sa khalni do bi gata you can't do it, it's just the way it is. Hakoshi kojo da hadi tinige hot kojo da hadi tinige ga okay achet ahota bas khates gistid tsid achet ahota todlel da le akwit za le benete go did kholon dolel beso holon dolel johot apa hozn ko ako shikhodo ba yashtige Sheik at be hasten sin kesdo do ba na ada. Belchade skissen sendide. Slachto belchade skis. Akoto ashde de schnellalo. Nichelato schleto niltide. Hot out eben hash atide. Diebe is da gize kwege niche ade tort ben de yet kwe brate tot si kui da panhashi ja hotel ya le belchaya sha Johot avan sahakesendle shik eno sendegi. Ako dibes ani will yehegits it a ete pa yelt kioda zeslena ado bikijisli. Ako dibes ani a eta de kuigoshi nas nildide. Ako behes ani ella ako to otat that dit a eta da bakha nechite enit Not ani te et ati te tuik a hos ita ani hido dobik a honil ida penashich ohunsh ahagi the bepenal sauce. Abba hat the 52 sheep units bakhan the 75 o hagen hanal kahonji ado penna sa honit long hage ekot apenina ado khoche blend board ya nana sai abba hat adan the et open lash Bibe has anigi big honil old ya a hot ade don nilchik no seni ahon so.
Ache lassen an ada no slido, shikeda no slido, hade shinan stahulonde ko, nedo zago ko, haneta de dit inchna hat nihinat ani tse koste, bekek eta de dit inchla no sonshi na hisokre. E pego ta sin hicheba he hasen, ado hehe ade nihitis ai joy kot alege lesha. Belgana kachiko Nisha, do the land makes the people. Who we are is because of the land. If we don't take care of the land, it's going to create a different picture of who we are as Navajo people. That is why land board members, grazing official, you will indeed have a seat at the table with the next president of Navajo Nation. Tom Chi kot ego nahayan sakhes ko kodo nihichedez idole eza atkiste jin hal chengo ado the bebeke bitlate the bebechan da hal chengo ko na hisi tham ale sata dil niskot jo ad biket again le Din hal chenen hitsa hinnet o ha de shibel kana da ya de nisho at o de la jo ebeni na ko to hot e ko de keya to ba hwiliada ado de net be ya khaliani dan kha de bele halini do is khada bedit no bchen sikes den khas twisani de nek shide yastko they're uneducated She khoji is honal sosisalpa kanat ani da sosleta dit nini a ebe chandasit ebeni na hajo yono nenun halchin da ilkhai bindin khana hito khakko atin da nil khadigi e khodo bel khadija did you know through history hundreds and centuries of years the shepherd always makes the best leaders Sheep herders know how to take care of the land. They know what the condition of the land is. They don't need laws to say this is the condition of the land. It is laws do not make people's behaviors better or it does not change people's behaviors. So we need to be not so reliant on laws and regulation. We must rely on who we are. So the wealth is in the land. It's not elsewhere. The land, the wealth is right here, what we're talking about. We're not talking about bringing in manufacturing jobs. They can leave anytime they want to, but the land will be here. It's going to retain us. It's going to give us our land, our language, our culture, and our unique way of looking at the land. So we must protect the land base that we have. That map on the wall right there of Navajo Nation, If we put it to other countries, 195 countries around the world, Navajo Nation is ranked 125th largest land base in this world, more than the other 124 land bases that are called countries. Zato shohot egon hikeya petsketo petsgildo yonolnenko sa'a. And it's amazing that we don't even farm 1% of that land base. If we were to increase it by 1 or 2% in farming, we could be the breadbasket of the Southwest. Increase it to 5%, we could feed the rest of the United States. Zat anit jetet aspigat holds nihiyadot ati khadni kun laho tahdilt asahanade tki bigate nikeya belganat wasipe kodo action no that they're looking at our underweight cattle. They're looking to buy cattle at a low weight, and they want to run it through their pasture so they could increase their weight and sell it at a higher price. Let's work together to cut out this middleman that's happening. Farmers, create a pasture for your fellow ranchers, on and on and on. The land demands that we can't sleep. That's what the land is requiring us. So if we get into and dance with our land base, we're going to become a great nation again in no time. Thank you.
Mr. Chi, he speaks very inspirational. I love the way he speaks. It's very inspirational. Donovan I introduced you earlier. Thank you everybody for coming. So all of us are here for a reason, because of the fact that we think we can do better for the government. But then you have to ask yourself, who can you go up to any of these people and say, I need help? Who's going to look you in the eye and say, hey, let me help you? You're going to walk into our office and we're going to get out of our chair and we're going to say, what's the issue? Ask yourselves, who is going to help you? Who is going to get up out of that chair and say, instead of like brush you off? That's what happens at the office of the president right now. If you go there, that's what's going to happen. A lot of us have issues, land issues, we have road issues. Right now, we really need to think about who you're going to put into this place, because of the fact you're going to be having to deal with that person for the next 4 years. So you really have to think about your vote. Like Mr. Jones just said, don't waste your vote. Every one of you is going to make the difference for what's going to happen in the next 4 years. Are we going to become a state of friction, or are we going to be a state of progress? We need to really think about that. We do have our support for our people because of our relations, but then what do we really want for our children in the future? We need jobs. There has not been one plan for jobs here from any of these people. My proposal is to work with the fairs, fix up those fairgrounds, so we as artists don't have to ask $10 to $20 for our pieces. We can get the tourists that can afford $500, $1,000, $10,000 pieces. That is what we want. That is what we need. Everyone that's selling on side the road here, they need money. They need help. So it's serious. We're not out there selling our stuff because we're rich. We're out there because we need to buy clothes, we need to buy food, we need to buy gas. It's very important. So this is why we're all here as candidates. So this is one of the issues that we have, but we're here for the land board issues too. NAPI, if you ever go out there, their plantations are green. There are green grass everywhere out there, but then yet they tell us grazing permittees, you're in a drought. Why is that? Why aren't they sharing their information with us on how they're growing this green grass everywhere? They have corn, they have potatoes everywhere out there. And then I live like about half a mile from where they're growing. But right now, they don't share that information, say, hey, you can do this to your land so you can be productive with your livestock. So land board, ask questions from NAPI, how can we help our grazing permittees? Please, because we look to you when you come to our chapter and tell us all the information. That's the only information that we get. We can't go to NAPI and ask them, how do they do that? Why is it so green over there? Why is it so dead over there? Help us, because we rely on our livestock. It's our background. So my Nully, she was the one that cared for the sheep. Every single day, we helped her process our wool and her rug weaving. That's tradition to me. That's grassroots. We sat down, we carded everything for her, laid it down like little lamb's tails. That's grassroots. So you have to think about the grassroots people are going to help you. If you come to me, any single one of you, you're going to say, Donovan Piquet, you promised you were going to help me, and I will help you. If I have to pull money out of my pocket, say, hey, okay, let's figure out your situation, your house burned down, let's fix it. That is why we're here, to help you, not to help ourselves. We have to help our children in their future. So, thank you very much for coming.
Right on time, 2 minutes over. 1:30. De gaan hier die shit couldn't gaan nog kai aise. Ja, die couldn't hier naar spata hos do I don't hate that nie he. De gaan dak I don't hate that. Den gaan da sol. Your phone number share that. Arba da not. A quagit in that ani le had all thought that the kal. At sanal tos had the leo I don't nail in the bekide bahados nick at do yashkuda. Lata yesadi kwadohun tla. Skelo do le stikji hotak at email address arba da noche. Share your phone number hashi banda will len here. Our killing hitch in the hadlet do a large in hitch eat us. We can't answer all of them at the same time. We have to take a nature break, but uncle, we'll return it afterwards. You say kwado. Nantlahagi ya hishpa dot al hishpa gat nota aje holjish na kidamogo hishiba oh ad not ani da nothni ado kashi khashin sago hun khek khagi don hichbel khoyegi don hinal zedi hun hastha ako ebe dalni to hishido lehu Mr. Jones, Mr. Chi, Mr. Begay, Mr. Russell, or Professor Russell, Mr. Noble, Ms. Manuel Nez, Mr. Trujillo, Mr. Daesh, Mr. Lizer. Ako hut ayon an tla aja gaha don lede khwel saso khedi lachazun khela di sohlachun zuntle. De qade yaay sabat ahastla eta huna hast khanege na khaniya don khinalzada. Ako beidalni. Kodi kodoe ya he ane. Ata isnel go bikede baganan te go ya he aro e khojo chnada dilnish. Edun hilaj do ahazan edigin basalla. De yen hil khulloro le ata da khoshya. Atkino ya ehon khaz aro le. Arul khalchen hitsoken hinalke bel khaji at abkeda hajat lidol. Ni hito aro da hanolloni das nolts an khashin zais ai ako dat ben nacho khodo altkedi kha qade ya hana ish kilosine abbe khajob da holna de dik adati khagoda ya eben ayuno khahojini jil to qabeter do chila khodo khajoban da hasol aro khajob che yadaltki ako job di khagi ye dalni aro hashi banda hol khala aro nanla dibchi yadaltki Ayona ilnada nihayibana nilten kebana ada nitlenegi. For District 16, we had 88 years of experience at one time. 88 years of experience within a one term go. Ako even na che Aisha has tweeted that di kodo large day kage essence do asana nashwatla do asaha ba yeshkita. Ye nadi jahaki resolution even na che yeshkit. Ako di kage what ba lances do kha nabadishnish and ahuna has thanigi shilli do ba khan singod. I can't low. Thank you.